Chapter 2944. Night. In the surveillance room of the Psionic Team HQ, Morgan and Michael were playing games on their phones during working hours. Just one round. Morgan cursed in anger. Fuck, Michael, when did your skills become so good? You've never won a round before. Hee hee. I found that lucky girl today and got her to bless me. You're cheating. How did you do it? Morgan was both angry and curious. The official members were all arrogant. Usually, they didn't even look at the people from the logistics department. How did Michael get an official member to bless him? Just then, Michael's attention shifted to the surveillance screen. Hey, don't change the topic. Your trick doesn't work. Tell me, how did you get that lucky girl to bless you? Michael ignored Morgan's question. Pointing at the screen, he said, Look, there's someone there. He's not one of us. Morgan didn't believe it. It was deep in the forest, and it was night time. Other than the Psionic Team, who else would come here? Wouldn't they be eaten by a cat on the way? There's really someone. Damn, this idiot. He's so troublesome, Michael said in annoyance. Morgan couldn't do anything. He could only put down the game and go out with Michael. Occasionally, someone would approach the Psionic Team HQ recklessly. Now and then, they needed to chase these unwelcome guests away. The two drove a Hummer out of a secret tunnel. When the car stopped before the person, they realized that it was an Asian. Hey, kid, this isn't a place you should be, Michael yelled. Fuck off, get out of my sight, or I'll teach you a lesson. Chen Zhao looked up at the two in the Hummer. You should wear your seatbelts. Fuck, what are you talking about? There's no traffic police here to control us. No, I'm serious. If there's a car accident, the seatbelts can ensure your safety. At least you won't die. Just then, Morgan took out his electric baton. Kid, do you know what this is? If you don't fuck off, I'm going to fuck your butt with this. Morgan, what? Can't you see that I almost scared this kid to the point of pissing his ass? Morgan. Our car, Michael's voice was trembling. Morgan suddenly felt that the car was shaking slightly. Looking down, the Hummer seemed to be floating. What's going on, you? The two suddenly realized something and looked at Chen Zhao in fear. They clearly remembered that a month ago, there was an idiot who provoked the official members of the Psionic Team. Then, he lay in the ICU for half a month. Obviously, the two of them had made the same mistake. No matter where this guy came from, the result would be the same. Please fasten your seatbelts. You have 10 seconds. 9. 8. 7. Terrified, the two hurriedly fastened their seatbelts. Accompanied by the two men's terrified cries, the car was suddenly thrown out. It whizzed towards the mountain wall. An ear-piercing alarm suddenly rang in the training room. Jia Liwen stopped her practice and pushed open the door to the training room. He discovered that the doors to the other training rooms were also open, and the official members were all running out. Carrie stopped Yemen, whom she had just met today. E-Man was the same as her, a newcomer who had just joined. She had joined 2 weeks earlier than Carrie. The two women were newcomers, so they got along well. There's an enemy invasion. This is an enemy invasion alert. Everyone who stays in the base must go and fight. Enemy invasion. Why would there be an enemy invasion? Could it be some evil organization? I don't know, but most of the time, it's a false alarm. Of course, there was an enemy invasion alert on the first day I came, but it was a guy who recommended himself. He wanted to show his power, so he purposely appeared as an attack. It caused quite a misunderstanding. It's not a big problem, E-Man said. This is the headquarters of the Psionic Team. There are more than 100 official members here, and most of them are much stronger than us. No idiot would really attack the headquarters. Okay. Hearing E-Man's words, Carrie felt much more at ease. But the alarm is still there. Everyone has to rush to the scene as soon as possible. Let's go. Carrie nodded and the two of them ran towards the exit. At the exit, Carrie's pupils constricted. The person surrounded by the psionic team was none other than Chen Zhao. Carrie shrunk her head subconsciously, as if she was afraid that Chen Zhao would see her. All the members of the psionic team glared at Chen Zhao aggressively. Clearly, no one was happy about the arrival of this uninvited guest. After all, most of the members were already asleep at this time. If not for this guy, they would be asleep already. Stop. All of you, stop. Just then, Britz's hurried shout came from the rear. Britz quickly ran to the scene. When he saw Chen Zhao, Britz felt terrible. Mr. Chen, I think you need to give me an explanation. Why did you attack our psionic team for no reason? Chen Zhao had already attacked once, so Britz knew Chen Zhao's power very well. The last attack had almost broken the psionic team's backbone. It wasn't easy for the psionic team to rise from the ashes and stand up again. He didn't want this to happen again. The psionic team's rebirth made them stronger. But it wasn't enough to challenge Chen Zhao. Therefore, he had to avoid conflict. He couldn't let Chen Zhao use the same trick again and defeat the psionic team by himself. If the psionic team suffered the same setback again, they might not be able to recover. I'm here to ask for someone. Chen Zhao's gaze swept across the psionic team members. In the end, his eyes locked onto the cowering Carrie hiding at the back. What? You still don't want to come out? Miss Carrie. Britz was surprised. What was going on? Did Carrie and Chen Zhao know each other? Carrie swallowed and mustered her courage to stand out. She didn't expect Chen Zhao to attack the psionic team's headquarters so brazenly right after she said that. You asterisk shoal, do you think I'm afraid of you? I'm not your dog anymore. Chen Zhao was still as arrogant as ever. Who gave you the courage? Or did someone teach you to say that? Is it the psionic team? Chapter 29:45. That's right. I don't need to be afraid of you anymore, Carrie said, mustering her courage. She wasn't stupid. If she wanted to protect herself, she could only drag the team down with her. Blitz didn't feel good at all. What Jia Wen had said had put them in a difficult position. He didn't expect that he'd pulled a newcomer into the team. He didn't expect that the newcomer would be a ticking time bomb. Mr. Chen, I don't know what conflict you have with Carrie, but I hope that you can forget about it for my sake. Blitz's tone softened. It seemed like he was compromising. Chen Zhao smiled faintly. Of course. For your sake, I can write it off. But I can't just write off a debt, right? That's right. That's right. How much does she owe you? $1 billion, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Blitz's expression froze. How much did you say? 1 billion. There was an uproar. Carrie's eyes widened. The next moment, Carrie was furious. You liar. When did I owe you $1 billion? At most 100,000. It was 100,000, but because of what you said, I've decided to raise it to 1 billion. Blitz's face was filled with anger. Mr. Chen, you're making things difficult for me. An ordinary member of the team dares to offend me. I have to suspect that you guys ordered her to do this, or that you're ready for war. Blitz didn't know what Carrie had said to Chen Zhao, but it definitely wasn't anything good. At this moment, Blitz was filled with regret. Why had he dragged Carrie into the psionic team? He was asking for trouble. But now, she was a member of the team. He wanted to give up on Carrie, but there were so many members here. If he said that he was going to give up on Carrie now, the psionic team would instantly fall apart. Mr. Chen, on behalf of the team, I'm willing to pay $1 million to stop this. What do you think? Nothing. Chen Zhao rejected Blitz directly. Mr. Blitz, there's so many of us. Why should we be afraid of him? Yeah. Since he dares to cause trouble in our headquarters alone, he should be prepared to be taught a lesson. Blitz was frustrated. If possible, he wouldn't mind beating Chen Zhao up. But the key problem was that they couldn't beat him. Chen Zhao was too powerful. Just then, Vestana and Toddy Belster walked out. Chen Zhao sensed an unusual aura from Vestana. Powerful. It was extremely powerful. Last time, he knew that Vestana was practicing some kind of forbidden secret art. It seemed that the forbidden secret technique had succeeded. Mr. Chen. Vestana stared at Chen Zhao. There was a hint of eagerness in her eyes. Miss Vestana, you seem to have changed a lot. It's really surprising. I didn't expect that weak girl to have grown to such heights. Indeed, even I am surprised. The corner of Vestana's mouth curled up into a smile. I know what happened. Why don't we make a bet? What kind of bet? Mr. Torty and I will join hands to fight you. As a senior, you shouldn't mind us joining hands, right? If you win, you can take him away. Chen Zhao was obviously happy to accept. He didn't plan on defeating the psionic team right now anyway. But what if Mr. Chen loses? Ha! If I lose, I don't think you'll let me go, so it's meaningless for me to take out any chips now. Come, let me see how you've changed. In fact, not long ago, Toddy Belster had told him that Vestana's secret technique was close to succeeding. Mr. Torty, Vestana said in a low voice. Cover me. Of course, happy to help. Toddy Belster lifted a hand and a magic array appeared on the ground. 2 huge terror demons crawled out of the magic formation and charged at Chen Zhao. The terror demons' gigantic bodies and the terrifying aura they exuded caused most spiritualists to feel shocked and terrified. They all knew that Toddy Belster was the high-level consultant of the psionic team. He was second only to Chen Zhao and above everyone else. As for exactly how strong he was, no one could say for sure. Only some of the older members knew that Toddy Belster's strength was said to be above everyone else. Now that they saw the 2 terror demons, they more or less understood how terrifying he was. However, the older members knew that this was only the tip of the iceberg of Toddy Belster's true strength. Chen Zhao lifted his right arm and pressed it down slightly. The 2 terrifying terror demons were pressed to the ground in an instant. The ground had caved in to form 2 pits, and 2 unlucky terror demons were struggling in the pits. Chen Zhao stomped and raised his fist, charging at Toddy Belster. Just then, Vestana moved too. She was extremely fast. Her arms seemed to be flowing with lava. Flames flickered in her veins, emitting scorching heat. Bang! The 2 fists met. Chen Zhao stood where he was and Vestana didn't retreat either. Vestana laughed. I used to think that Mr. Chen's fist was unstoppable, but now I realize that I overestimated you. Chen Zhao laughed too. The next moment, he suddenly exerted force. Bang! Before Vestana could show any more emotions, her body was already smashed into the mountain wall. The mountain wall was smashed into pieces, burying Vestana. Looks like you're hallucinating, Chen Zhao said calmly. Chen Zhao said calmly. Toddy Belster hurriedly stepped back. Stop, stop, stop. I surrender, Toddy said hurriedly. I don't like close combat. Even if he was acting, he didn't want to be beaten up in public. Out of everyone present, he was the only one who knew how terrifying Chen Zhao was. His ability to summon demons was given to him by Chen Zhao. Therefore, he had no chance of winning against Chen Zhao. Especially since he was a survivor of the Demon Island battle. He knew that Chen Zhao's terror had no limit. Boom! Just then, Vestana lifted the gravel covering her body. She returned to the battlefield aggressively. It seemed that she hadn't completely accepted her defeat. Ms. Vestana, that's enough. Stop, Toddy Belster said. Toddy Belster said at the right time, you are not perfect enough now. It is not rational to challenge him with your imperfections. I didn't lose, Vestana said, gritting her teeth. Miss Vestana, you've lost. Brits could also see that Chen Zhao was overwhelming. At least, it was still too early for Vestana to face Chen Zhao. Chapter 2946. The moment the fists clashed, Vestana had already felt that she had lost. However, she couldn't back down now. She just made such an arrogant statement, yet she was taken away by Chen Zhao. She felt embarrassed. She'd had a sliver of hope. Her forbidden secret technique wasn't complete yet, but it was 80% complete. Her current combat strength could be said to be very terrifying. So, she felt that even if she couldn't beat Chen Zhao, she could at least fight back. The moment the fists clashed, she was overjoyed. She felt that Chen Zhao's power was only so-so. But the next moment, Chen Zhao crushed her hopes. It was still that unparalleled power, so strong that it was terrifying. But this time, Vestana quickly calmed down. There was some hope in her unwilling eyes. That power didn't seem to be unconquerable. She wasn't that far away from that punch. If she could take that punch, it was the same as taking all the attacks. Vestana looked forward to the next time she could ascend. She looked forward to the next real face-to-face battle with Chen Zhao. And next time, she wouldn't fail again. Vestana could feel it. That day wasn't that far away anymore. Carrie was about to pee her pants. Couldn't she even hide here? Couldn't the psionic team protect her? Chen Zhao looked at Carrie with a smile. Look, I said that no one can protect you. Fuck, if you want to take Carrie away, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Just then, Carrie's only friend, Iman, stood before Carrie and roared. Sure. Chen Zhao raised his hand and aimed it at Iman instantly. Iman felt like death was coming. Stop. Suddenly, Toddy Belster yelled. Immediately, a huge demon appeared behind him. The demon's entire body was enveloped in terrifying hellfire. The demon's wings were spread to the maximum, more than 10 meters wide. The demon's body emitted terrifying waves. These waves were completely different from normal aura suppression. This was the demonic domain that only big demons could master. This kind of power caused everyone present to turn pale with fright. Only now did they understand how terrifying and powerful Toddy Belster was. Even Vestana was astonished. What kind of power was this? Just by feeling it, and not even as an enemy, the other party felt an immense pressure. In fact, this could no longer be called terrifying, but grand. Everyone felt how insignificant they were. In front of Toddy Belster, in front of the huge fiery demon behind him. Smiling, Chen Zhao took 2 steps back. Fine, fine. You win. I only want her. I won't touch anyone else. Toddy Belster played along with him. Of course, Chen Zhao had to play along with Toddy Belster. As the high-level advisor of the psionic ability team, he had to display his authority and strength. This was the only way to consolidate his position. Chen Zhao lifted his finger and Carrie was lifted into the air. Chen Zhao turned and left, disappearing into the darkness in a few seconds. The others were now enveloped by the demonic domain of the great demon behind Toddy Belster. Even if he wanted to help, he couldn't. Only Chen Zhao could come and go as he pleased. Seeing Chen Zhao leave, Toddy Belster looked at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, he half knelt on the ground like a deflated balloon. At the same time, the great demon behind him disappeared. The suppression of the demonic domain was also released. Mr. Toddy, why didn't you stop him just now? You can definitely do it. Westana was shocked by Toddy Belster's terrifying power. She felt that Toddy Belster could definitely stop Chen Zhao. He might even be able to defeat this invincible enemy. But Toddy didn't do that. Instead, they could only watch as Chen Zhao led their people away. Blitz went up to help Toddy Belster up. Even though Westana was their boss, Blitz said unhappily. Miss Vastana, you'd better show some respect to Mr. Torty. I think he's done more than enough. Blitz said with dissatisfaction. Toddy Belster stood up tiredly. Looking at Westana, he said, You think I don't want to? I've only just come into contact with this level of power. As you can see, it's already very difficult for me to maintain it. Mr. Chen, on the other hand, isn't suppressed by my power at all. This can only mean that he also has this power and is more skilled than me. If we fight, I'll definitely lose, so I can only control my power and scare him away. As for defeating him, Toddy Belster looked at Westana seriously. For now, I can't do it alone. Bullshit. Toddy Belster was bullshit. Summoning demons wasn't difficult for him at all. The demonic domain wasn't released by him either. It was by the great demon. So he didn't have to use any energy at all. He didn't even need to do anything to summon the demon. He was just acting until the end. However, Vestana showed a look of remorse. Sorry, Mr. Toddy, I was impulsive. I apologize. Westana apologized sincerely. But it was also because of Toddy Belster's unimaginable power. His position and their hearts rose once again. It was unimaginable power. Toddy Belster was the same. So was Chen Zhao. Mr. Toddy, let me help you in. Blitz helped Toddy Belster in a friendly manner. Vestana followed. She wanted to know everything she could about that power. Perhaps, in the next war, this kind of power would become the absolute key. Mr. Toddy, what exactly is that power? Domain. Toddy Belster answered weakly but firmly, My understanding of domains isn't complete yet. I've only come into contact with it recently. It's the talent and power that only true experts have. Different from me, that man has a complete domain. Have you seen him use it before? Both shook their heads. They couldn't help but look even more worried. The situation wasn't as optimistic as they'd imagined. In the two battles, Chen Zhao had defeated them without even using his domain. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying that man was. How can we obtain this power? Does everyone have the chance? Blitz asked. Toddy Belster couldn't help but look at Blitz. Theoretically, everyone has the right, but reality isn't theory. Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2947. Carrie was so scared that she almost peed her pants. How could this happen? Didn't they agree to be each other's angels? Carrie knew that the psionic team was helpless too. But helplessness didn't mean she could accept it. On the other hand, Chen Zhao's dominance made her panic. Then Carrie was tossed to the ground. Don't be rash. Killing is against the law. Carrie jumped up from the ground. Don't be reckless. Murder is against the law. Carrie jumped up from the ground. Go in. He pointed at a small building behind Carrie. Carrie looked at the building. It was dark inside. She couldn't see anything. Jia Liwen looked at the small building. It was dark inside and she couldn't see anything. Carrie stared at Chen Zhao in fear. Shut up. Chen Zhao waved his finger and Carrie was sent flying into the building. Shut up. Chen Zhao waved his finger and Carrie flew backward, falling into the building. As soon as Carrie stood up, a huge force came from behind and sent her flying. She felt as if all the bones in her body were about to fall apart. Wretched bastard. Carrie cursed. Carrie, it wasn't that man who attacked you just now. It was an evil spirit. What? Evil spirit? He wants an evil spirit to kill me. That evil spirit alone shouldn't be able to kill you. What about the ones on the other side? Carrie suddenly panicked. There was something that looked like a beehive embedded in the opposite wall. It was so densely packed that it made one's scalp go numb. If someone with trypophobia saw this, they'd probably go into shock. Actually, it was a beehive formed by countless evil spirits. They'd emptied the wall and stuffed themselves into it, forming holes. Hu Wu's tone changed too. Spirit nest. No matter what it was, a quantitative change would result in a qualitative change. The conditions to form a spirit nest were more stringent. An evil spirit at the level of a calamity had to die. Moreover, the spirit didn't dissipate or get rid of. Then, other evil spirits discovered it and used it as a nest. As time passed, the weaker evil spirits didn't devour the spirit. Instead, they were bound by the spirit and became a part of the nest. The evil spirits that were fused with the spirit nest still retained some consciousness. But they were more like the neurons of the spirit nest. If one evil spirit discovered its prey, all the evil spirits would discover it. Oh no. Yuan Wu obviously realized that something was wrong. Over 100 evil spirits screeched at the same time. The surrounding walls were crumbling. What should I do? Think of something. I don't want to die here, run. The only thing you can do now is run. Carrie fled frantically. Just as she reached the door opened. She saw Chen Zhao standing far away. The moment she rushed out, Chen Zhao tapped lightly. Carrie was shoved back into the building. Half an hour later, Carrie was covered in blood. Dragging her broken right leg, she staggered out of the building. Carrie felt like she was going to die. She also did not know how she had destroyed the spirit nest. In short, she won. No, it should be said that she survived. Carrie suddenly stopped and saw Chen Zhao standing outside. Carrie didn't know how Chen Zhao would deal with her. Without saying anything, Chen Zhao turned and got into the car. After a few seconds, he said coldly, "Get in the car." Carrie didn't have the courage to fight Chen Zhao anymore. She obediently got into the car. "This isn't the way to my house," Carrie said. Chen Zhao didn't say anything. He ignored Carrie's doubts. Carrie was even more terrified. She was afraid that the next destination would be like this. Just now, when she faced the spirit nest, both she and Yuan Wu had used all their strength to destroy it. If the next destination was still like this, she might as well just die. The car stopped in front of a house in a residential area. Jia Liwen looked around. It seemed like someone lived here. It didn't seem like a creepy place. "Get out." Carrie got out of the car, trembling. Chen Zhao walked to the door and knocked. The door opened. He saw Chen Zhao standing outside. Behind him, there was also Carrie, who was covered in blood. "Mr. Chen, she'll be your roommate from now on," Chen Zhao said. With that, Chen Zhao turned and left. Xiao He and Jiaowen were left behind, looking at each other. Xiao He didn't have time to ask. She hurriedly helped Carrie into the house. Carrie was frightened tonight. She really felt like she was going to die. Are you okay? Xiao He looked at Carrie, who was curled up on the sofa. Very, Carrie said. Who are you to that man? I'm not related to him. He saved my life, but I don't have much contact with him, Xiao He said. What about you? Slave. Xiao He looked at Jiao Liwen with a strange expression and asked, in what way? I owed him money. Then, I found a backer and thought that I could avoid that man. In the end, that man found my backer and beat him up. He dragged me out and made me like this. He's so cruel. Xiao He didn't know the whole story, so she started to imagine it. You need to wash up. I'll find some medicine for you, Xiao He said. After Jiao Liwen showered, Xiao He lent her clothes to Jiao Liwen. She also helped Carrie deal with her wounds. She didn't need to talk about the bruises. There were also many bite marks from evil spirit claws. These are from evil spirits. You too, you too. Yes, he threw me in front of a spirit nest. Damn. I almost died there. Xiao He exclaimed, spirit nest. You faced a spirit nest alone. That thing is very difficult to deal with. Back then, my father had to bring 12 disciples to deal with a spirit nest. You're a loose cultivator? Or a family one? Me? I count as a loose cultivator, Carrie said. Then what do you plan to do next? I don't know. I don't even dare to run now. He's a demon. His power covers all of Los Angeles. No, all of California. You can't escape from Los Angeles, Xiao He said. In other words, I have nowhere to run. Will the police protect me? Xiao He glanced at Carrie and shook her head. It's useless. If he wants to kill you, unless you hide in the White House, you won't be able to escape. Is there no other way? I can't help you, Xiao He said. By the way, maybe I can teach you some spells. If you face danger next time, you might be more relaxed. Can you help me defeat him? This. I don't know how powerful he is. Top. Chapter 2948. Xiao He had never seen Chen Zhao fight. However, from her interaction with West had said that Chen Zhao was very powerful. As for exactly how powerful he was, Xiao He didn't have a clear idea. However, she knew that West was powerful. Because she had run into some trouble once. Coincidentally, West had come to see her. Then, he had helped her solve the problem. He had done it easily too. To make West say that Chen Zhao was very powerful. This meant that Chen Zhao was really powerful. Perhaps much more powerful than the two of them. I know someone. He works for that Chen. He's my uncle. I'll ask him tomorrow, Xiao He said. Don't. You said that your uncle works for that man. If you ask, won't you expose my inner thoughts? She was still afraid. It's okay. I won't ask directly, Xiao He said. Then be careful. Don't expose me. Right now, Carrie's fear of Chen Zhao had reached its peak. It wasn't just that Chen Zhao had mistreated her. Before that, Chen Zhao had faced more than 100 people in the psionic team alone. However, his aura alone was able to suppress more than 100 people in front of him to the point of suffocation. If not for Mr. Toady, the psionic team would probably have been defeated by Chen Zhao alone. Uncle West, are you busy? Yes. I'll treat you to lunch. Okay. Give me the address. West could actually feel that Xiao He was still a little guarded against him. Thus, after arranging Xiao He's accommodation and the procedures for her to study abroad, he rarely went to find her. He kept a safe distance that Xiaohe felt comfortable with. However, West didn't expect Xiaohe to treat him to lunch. This surprised and delighted him. When West arrived at the restaurant, Xiaohe was already one step ahead of him. "Xiaohe, this is for you." Xiaohe took West's brocade box. The moment she opened it, a dense wave of magic surged out. It was a small and exquisite pendant. It's a gadget made by our alchemists. Everyone has one, so I took one. No, it's too expensive. Xiaohe couldn't tell what the red gem in the middle of the pendant was, but it was definitely not an ordinary magic material. This kind of top-grade magic material could easily cost tens of thousands of dollars, and most of the time, it was measured in grams. Don't worry, this thing is the least valuable in our world. Worthless. How is that possible? Xiaohe felt that West had purposely said that so that she would accept the gift. That's the truth. We have too many of these things. If it weren't for stabilizing the market price, I'm afraid we would have sold them all long ago. Now that we have them in our hands, it's not convenient to sell them, so we can only use them for ourselves. How is that possible? It's impossible for there to be a large supply of such top-quality magic materials, right? This is refined from the blood of some magical creature. Even if it's the blood of a large magic creature, there won't be much left after it's been refined, right? We've found many of these magic creatures. No one else has found them yet, so they're exclusive to the supernatural organization. West shrugged. Indeed, the blood of a giant dragon had been refined and concentrated 100 times. But even if it was 100 times more concentrated, it was still quite impressive. A giant dragon could produce 2 tons of dragon blood crystals. This meant that the supernatural organization had more than 20 tons of dragon blood crystals. And this was when they had only refined 1/3 of the giant dragon's blood. The market price of dragon blood crystals was $2 million per kilogram. It was worth far more than gold of the same weight. However, the market demand for dragon blood crystals was much lower than gold. Therefore, if the supernatural organization put the dragon blood crystals on the market, the price of the crystals would probably plummet 100 times. Therefore, the supernatural organization's current strategy was to keep the crystals flowing. But even if they couldn't put the dragon blood crystals on the market in one go, it would still bring them a considerable amount of income. Even without the financial support from the higher-ups, the supernatural organization still had a lot of capital. And this was just the income from the dragon blood crystals. There were other things like dragon horns, dragon balls, dragon scales, and dragon eyes. As long as there was a small supply, they would be sold out the moment they went on the market. Hearing West's words, Xiaohe reluctantly accepted the gift. West had given her the pendant mainly because as an elder, it wasn't suitable for him to give her accessories like bracelets, rings, or necklaces. A pendant was more suitable. Uncle West, who's the most powerful person in the supernatural organization? Our president, of course. Is he as powerful as you? That's for sure. When we asked him to be our president, we liked his abilities. He's also stronger than we expected. He's probably the strongest and most suitable president since the supernatural organization was established. Even I can't find any problems with him. What level is he? Level? It doesn't matter what level it is. He can probably deal with any kind of supernatural threat. Xiaohe ignored the second half of West's sentence. In her opinion, West was blowing his own trumpet and exaggerating. She didn't believe that there was anyone in the world who could deal with all supernatural threats. After all, she was the former mistress of the God Refinement sect. There were also many books in the God Refinement sect that recorded some events in the Huaxia supernatural world. Therefore, Xiaohe guessed that West's vision was limited. But thinking about it, it was understandable. After all, North America was the weakest supernatural region. Chen Zhao's strength was certain. But it definitely wasn't as exaggerated as West said. If I want to surpass him, can I do it? West looked at Xiao He with a strange expression and then shook his head silently. To the members of the supernatural organization, Chen Zhao was basically invincible. That was an impression accumulated through battle after battle and many powerful enemies. Now, it was very difficult to be shaken by others. Therefore, Xiao He said that she wanted to surpass their president. From West's point of view, it wasn't just a slim chance, it was practically impossible. Xiao He, if you want to practice more advanced magic, you can join the supernatural organization. We still have many powerful people there. You should set your goal more realistically. You shouldn't set your goal on defeating the president from the start, Hansen said. Chapter 2949. Reiko. Kahachan. The two arranged to meet at the amusement park. Xiao He and Nagasaka Reiko kept in contact more often. Basically, they belonged to the category of best friends. The two often shopped, ate, and shopped together. Occasionally, they would also be in the same class. The two of them interacted the most in school. They were all international students from the Los Angeles branch campus. Of course, Nagasaka Reiko's results were not very good. However, this couldn't be helped, because Nagasaka Reiko would skip 2/3 of her classes every semester. On the contrary, Xiao He's performance was quite good. The two girls were having fun in the amusement park. When he was tired, he sat on a bench in the amusement park and ate ice cream. Reiko, you skipped class again yesterday. Professor Andy is very angry. It's okay. My family donated a lot of money to the school. I won't be dissuaded. Nagasaka Reiko said disapprovingly. Xiao He rolled her eyes, feeling a little envious and jealous at the same time. Did you have a mission yesterday? Sort of. Nagasaka Reiko vaguely replied. In fact, she had entered the Tower of Trials yesterday, and he had finally passed the 2nd level and entered the 3rd level. The 3rd floor of the Tower of Trials was where the top fighters of the supernatural organization were. Due to the sudden arrival of the spirit tide, everyone's strength seemed to have improved significantly. This was especially true for the few top-notch combatants. Their growth rate far exceeded that of the others. Although everyone was on the 3rd floor, the difference in combat power was still very obvious. Is it difficult? It's all right. Nagasaka Reiko said, we followed the captain to deal with a few spirit nests. Halfway through, we received a call from the president. He even told us to leave one spirit nest behind. The sudden arrival of the spirit chi tide had significantly increased the strength of the supernatural organization. But at the same time, it also increased the incidence of supernatural incidents. Take yesterday's mission for example. According to the investigation, those spirit nests were formed in the last 10 days or so. Under normal circumstances, the journey to the spiritual nest would take at least a few years. The formation of the spirit nest was so short that everyone could only attribute it to the spirit chi tide. Xiao He was a little speechless. It seemed that the spirit nest they had left behind had been used by Jia Liwen in the end. The last spirit nest was taken care of by your president, right? Are you kidding me? The guild leader had to personally deal with a spirit nest. How much do you look down on our guild leader? Are those spirit nests qualified for your president to take action? Nagasaka Reiko rolled her eyes at Xiao He. Spirit nest. As an official member, he could easily take care of a few of them. Can this thing be used as a standard to measure our guild leader? Don't look down on our guild leader. All right. Originally, Xiao wanted to get something from Nagasaka Reiko that was different from what West said. Xiao felt that Nagasaka Reiko came from Japan, and Japan was an area with a lot of supernatural activities. She should be more knowledgeable than West. But in the end, Nagasaka Reiko's tone was almost the same as West's. That matter-of-fact tone, that kind of pride and arrogance when questioning others. Our guild leader is the #1 expert in the world. This time, it was Xiao He who rolled her eyes. Chen Zhao, Fei Lai, and their children were all on the train to San Francisco. In order not to let his child disturb others, Chen Zhao specially booked a carriage. It was a 2 to 3 hour journey, and taking the train was more comfortable than flying. When the train arrived, Chen Zhao and his family boarded the double-decker bus that Portia had prepared beforehand. Only the double-decker bus had enough space for Chen Zhao's children to be noisy. Chen Zhao had to bring his family because Morguri really didn't have many friends. Especially friends who could tell him their identities without worry. So, Chen Zhao could only bring his family to support Morguri. After all, if the groom didn't have any friends or relatives during the wedding, it would be a pity for the wedding and the groom. Morguri, who was wearing the groom's suit today, went up and hugged Chen Zhao excitedly when he saw him get off the bus. Then, a group of little demons rushed out of the car. As the main character of the wedding, he would never reject lively children. The wedding wasn't held in a church. Instead, it was held in an empty field outside the town. Not many friends and relatives came. Including Chen Zhao's family, there were only about 30 people. Chen Zhao's family took half of them. During the wedding prelude, the bride's father held the bride's hand and solemnly handed her to Morguri. The bride's father said a few words. It was the bride's second marriage. She mentioned the misfortunes of her first marriage and her first husband's bad deeds. The bride's father hoped that Morguri could change his impression of his son-in-law. Then came the appearance of the wedding witnesses. It was a traditional ceremony. With the vows of husband and wife, the wedding ceremony was finally completed. Then, it was like a normal family party. Everyone walked around each other. Morguri brought the bride to Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. "Andre, you're so handsome today." Chen Zhao punched Morguri's chest. "Chen, are they all your children?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "I didn't expect you to have so many children. I'm so envious." Ali didn't ask much. She could tell from their skin color that most of them weren't biological. "You can have them too, but it'll take some time." The newlyweds definitely couldn't stay by Chen Zhao's side all the time. There were still many friends and relatives that they needed to greet. When Chen Zhao went to get the fruit salad, he suddenly felt someone's gaze. Following the feeling, he saw a black-haired woman. Beside her stood a tall, fat man who looked like a bodyguard. The woman also noticed Chen Zhao's gaze. Then, the woman walked over. "Same kind?" she asked straightforwardly. Chen Zhao nodded. "Do you always look at ordinary people like this?" "Professional habit," the woman said disapprovingly. "I just didn't expect the man's friend to have the same kind." "Then he's just an ordinary person," Chen Zhao said immediately. He didn't know who the woman was or what she would do. However, he didn't want to cause any trouble for Morguri. Just then, Ali came over again. "Amada, when did you come?" "Ali, congratulations." The black-haired woman smiled, which was rare. After exchanging greetings, Ali introduced the black-haired woman to Chen Zhao. She was her cousin. "Where are you from?" Amada asked Chen Zhao. "Los Angeles," Chen Zhao said. "Really? I'm going to LA in a few days too." "What a coincidence. If you have time, call me. I'll treat you to dinner." "Ha. No need for dinner. I think you won't want to see me then." Chen Zhao furrowed his brows. Amethy's tone was rather unfriendly. It seemed that she didn't have good intentions going to LA. I'll give you a piece of advice. In the next 2 weeks, you better go traveling. Don't go back to LA. Chapter 2950. Sorry, Chen Zhao replied with a smile. Traveling isn't in my plan. Okay, Amethyst said. Then you better hide at home and don't come out. Chen Zhao didn't know where Amethyst came from. However, she seemed to be hostile toward Chen Zhao. Nevertheless, at this wedding-themed party, the two still gave each other some dignity. Amethyst looked at Chen Zhao's back. Investigate who that man is. The tall and fat bodyguard beside her said in a low voice, Miss, I've already investigated. He's a rich man in LA, with over $10 billion. He's been in this country for less than 3 years. He's suspected to be a spiritualist. No need to suspect, Amethyst said. He's definitely one. Then will our actions conflict with him? I hope not, Amethyst said. Amethyst said, after all, the impact of killing a billionaire is too great. However, if he must participate in the process of our conquest, then try to make it as clean as possible, or make it look like an accident. At the wedding party, Chen Zhao and Amethyst didn't interact anymore. Although they occasionally met, they acted like they didn't know each other and gave their blessings to the two main characters of the wedding. Under Ellie and Marguerite's guidance, Chen Zhao also greeted their friends and family. Everyone would greet each other in unfamiliar yet passionate ways. Of course, compared to the complexity of adults, children were much simpler. They loved this kind of festive and lively atmosphere. After the wedding, Chen Zhao didn't return to LA immediately. Instead, he stayed the night in San Francisco. At night, Chen Zhao went to the forest. There was a faint aura in the air. Chen Zhao found Victoria. At the moment, Victoria was like a small mountain. No creature in the forest could threaten her. Of course, even humans. Unless it was an army, they wouldn't be able to threaten her. Victoria also recognized Chen Zhao. Or perhaps he recognized Chen Zhao through smell. They were as close as ever. Victoria nudged Chen Zhao with her big head. Chen Zhao wrapped his arms around Victoria. He couldn't even hug Victoria's head. She was really too big. Due to her barbaric growth, she was even bigger than Chen Zhao's princess. Chen Zhao took out the demonic crystal. It was Victoria's favorite food. Maybe it wasn't just food to her. Chen Zhao also thought about taking Victoria away. However, after some consideration, he gave up on this idea. Victoria didn't belong to him, but it was also Marguerite's family. Chen Zhao came quietly and then left quietly. The forest was huge, and under normal circumstances, Victoria's city would be safe. Of course, this was only under normal circumstances. As long as there was human activity, it could not be said to be absolutely safe. The next day, he brought his family back to Los Angeles. Bang bang, Xiaohe and Carrie were startled awake. They ran out of their respective rooms. What happened? I don't know. Was that a knock on the door? Xiaohe pulled open the curtains of the living room and saw a car parked by the roadside. Chen Zhao was standing in front of the car. The loud noise was clearly caused by him. When Carrie saw him, her face paled. Seeing Jiao Liwen's expression, Xiaohe immediately said angrily, "Don't be afraid of him. I'll teach him a lesson." As she spoke, Xiaohe strode to open the door. "Are you crazy? Do you know what time it is? Call Carrie out. I'm going to bed. If there's anything else, we'll talk tomorrow. As the daughter of a broken family, you don't seem to have any intention of going back. This won't do, so I've decided." "You've decided what?" Chen Zhao hooked his finger and Xiao He was pulled out. The next moment, Xiao He heard the sound of a window breaking behind her. Carrie also broke out of the window. Chen Zhao threw the two girls into the car. What are you doing? I'm warning you. Don't do anything stupid. Chen Zhao ignored the two women's panicked warnings and continued driving. Xiao He was so angry that she wanted to fight. But Chen Zhao's next words chilled her heart. You two better behave. My car is worth more than both of you combined. Before you fight, you better think about whether you can afford it or not. The pauper duo immediately behaved themselves. Xiao He had heard from Carrie that she had accidentally shattered the glass of Chen Zhao's cafeteria. Then, Chen Zhao dared to ask her for $1 billion. If they scratched even a bit of his car, he would skin them alive. Soon, Chen Zhao stopped the car. Get out. After the two women got out of the car, they discovered that there was a house in front of them that was immersed in darkness. The two women instantly felt a gust of chilly wind. Air. Mr. Chen. I have class tomorrow. Xiao He admitted defeat. Why did he have to stand up for Carrie? He had no money, no manpower, and no strength. Why was she so stupid? There's an evil spirit inside. Destroy it and you can go home. Just one evil spirit? Xiao He asked. Yes, it's just an evil spirit. What level? Is it disaster level? If it was just a ferocious spirit, Xiao He felt that it was still possible. But it couldn't be disaster level. Of course, it was unlikely. It was almost impossible for a disaster-level evil spirit to appear in such a densely populated area. No, not disaster level, Chen Zhao said. So it's only disaster level. Chen Zhao nodded. It's a little stronger than disaster level. Destroy it and we can go. Yes. Yuan Wu, what are disaster level, disaster level? It's a classification for evil spirits or magical beasts. Disaster level is the highest. It's as hard to fight against as a natural disaster. It can cause great damage in a certain area. Disaster level is second. It can cause a certain amount of damage in a small area. Disaster level is a huge threat to a family. Below that are normal evil spirits. What level is the spirit nest? Disaster level. In other words, that fellow said that I can deal with the disaster level evil spirit inside. Theoretically, yes, but what? Level doesn't represent reality. Never mind. Let's see what kind of evil spirit it is. Yuan Wu was worried that Chen Zhao had prepared a spirit nest for Carrie 2 nights ago. It wouldn't be weakened this time, so Yuan Wu was worried that there was something fishy about the evil spirit inside. What are you waiting for? Go in. Chen Zhao kicked Carrie's butt and she flew into the room. Carrie was angry at such ungentlemanly behavior, but she didn't dare to say anything. She muttered as she followed Xiao He into the house. Chapter 2951. Xiao He and Jiao Liwen both wanted to finish as soon as possible. After entering the house, they saw a twisted evil spirit with only a pair of legs but 6 upper bodies. This evil spirit didn't avoid them. Its 6 crooked heads looked at Xiao He and Jiao Liwen. The two girls had seen a bit of the world. There was nothing to be afraid of for a mere evil spirit. Don't be afraid. Go up and fight. Xiao He made a hand seal and chanted in a low voice, "Summon blood god, my venerable spell." The next moment, Xiao He slapped her forehead. A golden red mark that looked like a fire pattern appeared on her forehead. Ha! Xiao He took a horse stance. That evil spirit had already rushed up. Its 6 upper bodies bared their fangs and pounced at Xiao He. Xiao He moved and dodged the attack of the 12 sharp claws. She turned around and slapped one of the evil spirit's upper bodies. A scorching flame power burst out of Xiao He's palm. In an instant, the upper body that was slapped exploded. One down. Xiao He took 2 steps back. She looked quite relaxed. Impressive. Jiao Liwen was very surprised. She didn't expect Xiao He to be so powerful. That's nothing. She's just using a force borrowing spell. What force borrowing spell? It's a spell that borrows the power of gods, ancestors, or nature. There are many similar spells in both the East and the West. Puwu said disapprovingly, looking at her hand seal and chant just now, she should be borrowing the power of the fire spirit. Then isn't borrowing the power of gods the most powerful? Of course not. With the same magic power, borrowing the power of gods is the least, because the requirements for borrowing the power of gods are very strict. On the contrary, the power of ancestors is the easiest to borrow. You can borrow more power with a relatively small amount of magic power, and the price is very small, or even no price. Moreover, the power of ancestors and the caster have an extremely high compatibility, so it's easier to use. What type of spell did you give me? It's not any type. It's just a simple circulation method. Combined with some simple breathing and releasing, you can compare magic power to fuel. Some powerful spells can be compared to a highly efficient engine. The breathing method you know now is to directly use fuel to spray others. Hearing Huwu's words, Carrie was instantly disappointed. So the things I know are so low level. Why don't you teach me something more advanced? No, I'm a divine beast. How could I know a human's cultivation technique? Don't you cultivate yourself? You won't be able to understand my cultivation method. Telling you more is just a waste of my breath. Then I don't have a place to look. You can ask Xiao He and see if she is willing to teach you her cultivation method. But you'd better not have too much hope. Her cultivation method has obvious traces of being passed down in her family, and it is estimated that there is also a bloodline requirement. Even if she is willing to teach you, you may not be able to practice it. At this moment, Xiao He was concentrating on dealing with the evil spirit in front of her. In the blink of an eye, another upper body was destroyed. Just when Xiao He was about to say something arrogant, she saw that the upper body of the first one that was blown up actually started to recover. Xiao He's countenance changed. Oh no, it's the root link spirit. The so-called root spirit was a spirit body with an extremely strong regenerative ability. As long as it was not instantly destroyed, even if there was only a small part left, it could still regenerate. Just like the legendary Hydra, as long as it had one head left, it could be reborn. Xiao He had never seen a root spirit with 6 bodies like the one in front of her. However, this was clearly not an ordinary calamity evil spirit. But to say that it had reached the level of a calamity, it was not. Jiao Liwen, don't be in a daze. Attack it with me. Jiao Liwen hurriedly joined the battle. However, the two of them clearly did not have enough attack power. From a certain point of view, this root spirit was even more difficult than the spirit nest from the day before. The two of them had put in a lot of effort, but in the end, they had only destroyed the upper body of the root spirit. Moreover, if they could not quickly deal with it, it was very likely that their previous efforts would have been in vain. Do you have a more ferocious attack? Jiao Liwen asked Yuan Wu. Right now, the two of them clearly did not have enough attack power. This Lian Zhen spirit was too difficult to deal with, even though its own strength was nothing to worry about. Although its own strength was really nothing to worry about, its regenerative ability was truly despairing. Without enough attack power, it was impossible to deal with. Cooperate with me. I'll attack, Yuan Wu said. All right. How do you want me to cooperate with you? Raise your chi, exhale, and press your palm against your dantian. This is the position, right? How many times have I taught you? Point your navel downwards. Alright. Is this the right position? Alright. Here it comes. Yuan Wu burrowed out of Jia Liwen's body, its claws suddenly tearing apart the root spirit in front of it. Xiao He could not see Yuan Wu, but she could clearly feel a powerful aura surging out from Jia Liwen's body. Immediately after, the root spirit was torn into strips by that thing. Phew, it's done. Jia Liwen's legs suddenly went soft, and she lay on the ground. However, before the two of them could even catch their breath, a scene that made them despair appeared. Each strip of the root spirit that had been torn into strips began to extend new limbs, 6 new bodies. Xiao He and Jia Liwen were dumbfounded. The two of them looked at each other and shouted, "Run!" The root spirit in front of them had turned into dozens of upper bodies, like the 1,000-armed guanyin. Not only had its shape changed, but its aura had also become more than 10 times stronger. Boom! The two of them were thrown out of the house and landed right in front of Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at the root spirit that had squeezed out. Amazing! This is the first time I've seen a spirit purge that can level up an evil spirit. You can raise a disaster level evil spirit to disaster level. You're really amazing. The two of them looked at Chen Zhao, flustered. Chen Zhao actually wanted them to continue. But the thing before them had clearly surpassed their limit. It was the same level as the spirit nest yesterday, both at the disaster level. But even at the same level, there were different levels of combat power. This thing was much stronger than the spirit nest. Nearly 100 evil spirits with half-bodies surged out like a tide. They seemed to want to drown the three of them. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed. The root spirit was instantly squeezed into a ball. Jia Liwen's and Xiao He's eyes almost fell out. That's it. That's it. What happened to the 300 rounds of battle? The two didn't talk when they were running. However, it was very obvious that he was trying to divert the trouble. It would be best if Chen Zhao and the root spirit died together. That would be the most perfect ending. Even if it didn't work, at least Chen Zhao would have to use a lot of effort to finish off the root spirit. Then, the two of them would be able to reap the benefits. But, what kind of script was this? This wasn't the script they wanted. Chapter 2952. Take this manual. There's a surprise waiting for you tomorrow. Chen Zhao glanced at the two girls. Their faces were already pale from fear. Tomorrow. That was going to cost their lives. Did he have to risk his life fighting with these repulsive people every day? Chen Zhao's gaze suddenly landed on Yu Wu, who was behind Carrie. If you look at me like that again, I'll gouge out your eyeballs. Yu Wu froze. You can see me. Do you think it's hard for me to find 1 or 2 monsters that escaped from the beast's steel with my abilities? Yu Wu stopped talking. Chen Zhao was telling the truth. With his abilities, he might not be able to catch all the monsters that escaped. But it would be a joke if he said he couldn't find a single one. Chen Zhao looked at the bead he'd made with the root spirit. The bead was almost weightless. After all, the root spirit was a spirit. He flicked it to Carrie and turned to get in the car. Wait. You're just going to leave us here. Can't you get in the car yourself? For Carrie and Xiao He, this was just the start of their suffering. Every night after that, Chen Zhao would bring the two girls out. Nevertheless, Carrie's abilities improved day by day. Especially after Yu Wu ate the bead made with the root spirit that night. His abilities more than doubled. Regular spirits didn't improve his abilities at all. But the root spirit was a disaster-level evil spirit. This wasn't something that could happen every day. Even if there was a second disaster-level evil spirit in front of them. Even if they had the ability to defeat it, they might not have the chance to devour it. At most, they would just take a few bites of the leftovers. There weren't many arrays that Qin Zhao could make into beads like the other night. The second was the cultivation technique manual that Zhao Liwen had obtained. This was what Carrie lacked the most. However, it wasn't something that could be learned in a day. Therefore, Carrie's own improvement wasn't fast. Fortunately, Yu Wu's improvement was also reflected in her. Chen Zhao focused on finding all kinds of enemies for them. He was strong and his attacks weren't restricted to the norm. It had to be said that their combat experience had increased significantly in the past few days. Blackie returned. He suddenly appeared when Chen Zhao and his family were having dinner. Chen Zhao glared at Blackie, annoyed. He stopped Blackie and told him to wait for the family to finish their dinner. After dinner, Chen Zhao entered the space crevice. How was it? Did you find anything? I've been venturing deep into the core of the feathered serpent god's world. When I got close to the core, I found a huge underground cavern. I can sense something filling the entire cavern. Perhaps it's the soul of the world you're looking for. But I can't be sure. I've never seen such a huge spiritual body before. I even suspect that it's a spiritual body. Chen Zhao's eyes hardened. Looks like I was right. Your guess. My current realm has always been lacking, but I've always been thinking about where I'm lacking. The circulation of my inner world is already quite perfect, and I can't find any flaws. Therefore, I'm thinking, since humans have souls, does the world also have souls? If a world has a soul, then what my inner world lacks to transform into a small world is a soul. In that case, let's go and take a look at the so-called world soul. Chen Zhao and Blackie moved immediately. He arrived in the world of the feathered serpent god. The cavern was near the center of the earth. If it was a normal person, even if they knew that there was something there, they could only look at it and sigh. Chen Zhao didn't have such worries. He directly went down. The ground and rock layers were no different from tofu to Chen Zhao. The closer they got to the cavern, the more Chen Zhao could feel the aura that could be described as vast. When Chen Zhao and Blackie arrived at the cavern, they felt that they were in this aura. No consciousness. Chen Zhao and Blackie glanced at each other. This thing didn't have any desire to attack them. Or rather, they didn't even feel any emotions. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. His inner world revolved wildly, sucking the huge soul into it. But as soon as Chen Zhao did so, the soul actually fused into his inner world. What's going on? Wait, why is it so easy? Even a normal spiritual body would struggle when it's absorbed, let alone a world soul. Chen Zhao didn't feel any resistance. On the contrary, the spiritual body was very obedient and cooperative. Chen Zhao absorbed more than half of it effortlessly. No. This isn't a complete soul. It's a fragment, Blackie said. How is that possible? Such a huge soul fragment. How big is the whole thing? Chen Zhao could feel that the soul was at least as big as a city. But it was just a fragment. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary spirit body would be blasted into at least a few dozen pieces when it was shattered. The original body of the soul might have been shattered long ago, Blackie said. Maybe you broke it. That was possible. Chen Zhao thought back to the battle. In the end, he'd used a super meteor to hit the surface. It was very likely that the attack had shattered the world's soul. It was because the world's soul had been shattered. That was why he could easily merge with the fragment of the world's intent and steal the foundation of the world. Moreover, he had the majority of the initiative. The remaining part didn't attack Chen Zhao either. Everything made sense now. That strike had already shattered the world's soul. The world's intent was gone. Because of this, the fragment of the world's soul would see him as the original body when he absorbed it. It instinctively got close to him and cooperated with his absorption. Simply put, Chen Zhao now represented the world's intent. The entire fragment was completely absorbed by Chen Zhao. In the inner world, the soul fragment was melted, disintegrated, and then reconstructed. Chen Zhao didn't even need to interfere in this process. The inner world seemed to know what to do instinctively. A blurry figure appeared in the inner world. It was very blurry and the face couldn't be seen clearly, but one could tell from the outline that it was Chen Zhao's image. Blackie looked at Chen Zhao as if he could see some changes in Chen Zhao. How is it? Yes, I can feel that the inner world is becoming complete, but to make it complete on its own will probably take hundreds or thousands of years. I need more soul fragments. Feel it hard, Blackie said. It's a part of you. You should be able to find the other fragments more easily than me, as long as they still exist in this world. Chapter 2953. Feel it with force. Blackie's choice of words was exquisite. Actually, he was using his own soul power to spread it out. It was like using a huge magnetic field as the source. Soul magnetic fields would attract each other. Moreover, Chen Zhao was blessed by the heavens here. The entire world belonged to him. Chen Zhao's consciousness spread across the mountains and rivers, crossing the vast ocean. He jumped into the abyss and crossed the endless plains. Found it. Chen Zhao retracted his consciousness. He sensed about 7 huge soul fragments. The soul fragment Chen Zhao had absorbed was the largest one hidden deep underground. The others weren't small either. Apart from the remaining 7, there were also hundreds of smaller ones scattered in every corner of the world. Chen Zhao had a thought. Instantly, he appeared before the second largest soul fragment with Blackie. With a thought, Chen Zhao and Blackie appeared before the second largest soul fragment in an instant. This soul fragment was hidden deep under the sea. It was even smoother than the first time. The moment Chen Zhao appeared, the soul fragment burrowed into his body. The moment the second soul fragment fused with the inner world, the figure in the inner world became clearer too. The third soul fragment. He could already see the face of the figure in the inner world. The fourth soul fragment. The inner world had truly transformed. The fifth, the sixth, the figure in the inner world was actually shrinking slowly. No, it wasn't shrinking. It was becoming young again. From 30 to 20, 20 to 10, and then to a baby. Then, the baby became an egg. The energy in the inner world started pouring into the egg. The egg started hatching and the baby crawled out. The egg shell was refined by the baby and then reversed. It became a teenager, a young man, a strong man, an old man, and finally, it decayed. After decaying, the energy returned to the world. The world was reconstructed and formed a new egg. This happened repeatedly. Egg, baby, teenager, young man, strong man, old man, decay. Each cycle was extremely perfect. The inner world seemed to be nourished. The inner world actually produced spiritual qi. Chen Zhao suddenly opened his eyes. At this moment, he had truly ascended. A perfect ascension. His colleagues also had a perfect inner world. Chen Zhao no longer needed the outer world to absorb the spiritual qi. His inner world could produce spiritual qi on its own. At this moment, Chen Zhao had truly transcended. Blackie had been following beside Chen Zhao silently. He felt Chen Zhao's change. Did you succeed? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Do you need the remaining fragments of the world's soul? Don't you need it? Chen Zhao thought for a moment and said, there's not much point. If I absorb the remaining soul fragment, I can become stronger to a certain extent, but it's a waste. Then leave it to me. I want to study the world's soul. I will also collect the small fragments scattered everywhere. Chen Zhao nodded. The world's soul fragment could be said to be a supreme treasure. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't share it with outsiders. Blackie, on the other hand, was one of them, and he had played a huge role in finding the first fragment of the world's soul. By the way, if you swallow this thing, can you become an existence like the Grim Reaper? Blackie thought about it and shook his head. This thing is too big. It will take a long time to swallow. I'm not sure if I can transform. Blackie had already transformed once, from a soulbringer to a deathbringer. But in essence, Blackie hadn't changed. His duties and functions hadn't changed. The only change was that Blackie could appear in front of ordinary people as long as he wanted. Of course, Blackie had never done that before. Chen Zhao was also curious. If Blackie transformed again, could he evolve into the legendary Grim Reaper? Or something else? Here, Chen Zhao could do many things. He could teleport to any corner of the world instantly. This was just one of the skills Chen Zhao had discovered. No, it shouldn't be called a skill. It should be called a power. But Chen Zhao was still very unfamiliar with it. Chen Zhao didn't know what else he could do. Anyway, he had a long way to go. He didn't need to rush. When he returned to Earth, Chen Zhao realized that 3 days had passed. It wasn't because the time flow was different between the two worlds. It was because Chen Zhao had been immersed in the transformation process. Before he knew it, 3 days had passed. The world's soul in his inner world basically went through a transformation cycle every 24 hours, from new life to decay, and then from decay to new life. Amada walked on the tree-lined path. This road had been around for 300 years. From the moment their family moved to this continent, from the moment their family settled in this country, this road had been built. Their family was the Felix family, an ancient and mysterious magic family. But they also had an illustrious name, a 1,000-year-old family. Before they moved to this land, they were a prominent family in Europe. There were big nobles in the world of ordinary people. The Felix family was the royal family of the magic world. There were only a few families that could compare to the Felix family. In their most glorious time, the Felix family had almost controlled the magic world of Europe. But their most glorious time was also their most painful time. The Felix family was overthrown. With the Scarlet Church as the main force, the Allied forces led by the 20th Blood Mary became the culprit of the Felix family's death. The Felix family suffered a crushing defeat. From the top combat power to the bottom structure, the 20th Blood Mary and her allied forces completely defeated the Felix family. The Felix family's divine artifact was sealed. Their top combat power died in battle. The remaining family members left Europe under the lead of the eldest son of the family leader at that time. To avoid being targeted by their enemies, the Felix family remained silent for 300 years. A whole 300 years. Even their former enemies had forgotten about the Felix family's existence. But they didn't disappear. The Felix family never disappeared. They still existed. They were just waiting for an opportunity. Finally, the opportunity came. Not long ago, the sleeping family woke up. The first sign was the awakening of the family's powerhouses that had been sleeping for hundreds of years. The second sign was that the sealed family's divine artifact had been unsealed without any warning. And many ordinary members of the family suddenly awakened their bloodline. All the signs pointed to the return of the Felix family. It was like a beautiful note drawn by fate. All the signs indicated the arrival of a new era. Every awakened would remember the humiliation their family had suffered in the past. Their hatred was passed down from generation to generation. Amatha was the representative of the new generation. She had a noble bloodline, strength, and the hatred of the past. Now, she was going to carry out the first order given by the family with the other new generation. Her mission was to conquer California. Yes, to inform the spiritual world of California. The other family members more or less received the same mission. When the whole family controlled the entire North American spiritual world, the family would have enough resources to deal with their past enemies one by one. Chapter 2954. Through the forest path, they came to a meadow. Dozens of the new generation of the clan were training here. Unlike Amatha, who had awakened her magic at a young age. Most of them had awakened less than 3 years ago. Some of them had even awakened recently. Amatha. Amatha is here. Amatha, our big sister. Amatha was proud. She could be proud. Facing the new generation, Amatha's strength had almost reached the upper limit of the new generation. She even surpassed many of the older generation. She was synonymous with genius. Of course, there was no shortage of geniuses in the Felix family. Amatha was just one of them. On the second night of awakening at the age of 5, she had broken the record of the Felix family. She had already received all the attention and training. Of course, Amatha did not disappoint those expectations and training. A trainer came up to her. "Miss Amatha, why are you here?" "I'm here to choose some people," Amatha said. "What about these little guys?" The little ones that Amatha spoke of were actually many older than her. But no one objected to Amatha's words. Even the eyes of the new generation were filled with eagerness to try. "Amatha, choose me. I will help you take care of all your enemies," a burly young man said. His gaze towards Amatha was filled with fanaticism and adoration. Amatha did not agree immediately. "That depends on your performance. Don't let me down." The trainer said, "That's Dewick, a guy who has tempered his body to the extreme. If he goes all out, he can even take a tank's bombardment." "Oh. That's strong." "Yes, with the blessing of a secret method. It doesn't last long, but almost no one can hurt him during the duration of the secret method." "Then count him in," Amatha said. "Dewick, come here. Do you have any other recommendations?" The trainer introduced the new generation one by one, explaining in detail what they were good at and their level of strength. Amatha was very satisfied with the selected new generation. It seemed that during this time, everyone's strength had improved at an alarming rate. "Jolanash, I need your help." "Sorry, I can't help you." Jolanash refused Nar's request without hesitation. Even when Nelson was looking at her with big watery eyes. "No, only you can help me." "No, I can't help you," Jolanash rejected Nar expressionlessly. "If you don't help me, I'll sell this dragon bone ring. This dragon bone ring should be worth a lot of money." "If you sell it, you won't get any more magic tools," Jolanash said. "You can't be so cruel." "I don't think I'm cruel. On the contrary, I'm kind enough," Jolanash said nonchalantly. "Why do you think you're still here? If it wasn't for my protection, you would have been dragged back by your family. Then help me one more time, one last time, the last time this year." Nar hugged Jolanash, trying to soften her heart this way. "I just want a dress. It's only $3,000. It's this year's latest style. I'm only short of $1,000 right now. I only need you to lend me $1,000. For you, it's not even enough for a single cultivation session." The money I spend on training will become my safety during missions. That dress won't do, Jolanash said. If you need to buy magic materials for training, I'll be happy to support you, but you're buying a dress. Then just pretend I'm doing it for training. No, you're not. Nar threw himself onto the sofa and waved his arms, crying and yelling like a child. If you need money, you can join the supernatural organization. Even if you're just an outer member, it'll be enough for your expenses. No, I won't waste my best years on those boring missions. If the supernatural organization is really sincere, then your chairman should come personally to ask me to join and give me an official member status and a high salary. You can tell our chairman what you want. I don't want to. He'll beat me to death. Rolling her eyes, Jolanash walked away. Where are you going? Back to my room. Also, I have a mission tonight. Good night. Nar bounced up from the sofa. Mission. I'll help you and you can share some of the money with me. Jolanash was about to refuse, but then she thought about it. It might be a good chance for Nar to train. After Nar had run away from the family, he'd been by her side. Jolanash knew her family's harsh environment. Back then, she hadn't been outstanding enough, so she'd been sent out or exiled. Nar's talent was much better than hers, but her personality was too undisciplined. If she returned to the family and didn't improve, she'd be slandered and humiliated in the future. To her, however much praise she'd received in the past would be how much slander and humiliation she'd suffered in the future. Sure, Jolanash said. What's our mission tonight? On a road into L.A., an unknown magical beast appeared. Looks like a crystal reindeer. What's a crystal reindeer? It's a magical beast. Is it strong? How strong is it? If it's a reindeer, it should be tame, right? Beasts that cannot be communicated with are dangerous, especially magical beasts that possess mana and magic. Crystal reindeer is on the list of dangerous magical beasts. Although they don't eat meat, it doesn't mean they won't attack humans. How strong? Disaster level, or I hope it's only disaster level. What do you mean? Could it be that it can still grow? Crystal reindeers are one of the few magical beasts that can evolve. Once it evolves, it might evolve into a disaster reindeer. Disaster reindeer. Disaster level. Yes, but the chances are low. There were about 300 crystal reindeers discovered in the past 100 years, and only 2 of them evolved into disaster reindeers, so the chances are low. Jolanash, you know how to tame magic, right? Why don't you tame this crystal reindeer? If you don't want it, you can give it to me. Jolanash glanced at Nar. You can't even feed yourself. How can you feed a magical beast? Especially a crystal reindeer that feeds on magic crystals? Taming magical beasts wasn't an exclusive secret. Apart from the super professionals, many families or organizations had mastered several types of magic to tame magical beasts. But taming magic wasn't easy, and could even be considered cumbersome. Chapter 2955. Most people couldn't even tame ordinary wild animals, much less magical beasts. Like in the novels, taming powerful magical beasts to become stronger wasn't unheard of in reality, but it was very difficult. Is it still your team this time? No, it's just me and you. Nair had gone on a few missions with Jolanash, or rather, to join in the fun. So, she was quite familiar with Jolanash's team members. Why are you going on a mission alone this time? Don't tell me you took on a private job. 2 missions are overlapping, so our team will split up. I'll be in charge of the Crystal Reindeer mission, and they'll be in charge of the other mission. Are you sure you can do it alone? No, it's 2 people. You've left yourself out. Nair was speechless. Actually, she'd been with Jolanash for a few months now. She'd long known the difference in power between her and Jolanash. Jolanash, who'd been exiled by her family because of her talent, had long surpassed her, a genius of the family. And not just a little bit, but completely. It wasn't that Naya hadn't thought about joining the supernatural organization. But she also knew that she'd have to return to her family sooner or later. So, she hadn't really joined the organization. Although no one would stop her from going to the organization's headquarters. But there must be some things in the organization that she hadn't come into contact with. Of course, Naya didn't want to explore other people's secrets. Just like how her family had secrets too. Who didn't have a few hidden stashes? Sitting in Jolanash's car, they arrived at a road outside the city. Jolene Nash made a phone call and temporarily closed that section of the road. Naya, put on the dragon bone ring. Also, put on this too. What's this? A magic item made of dragon blood crystals. It can provide you with a large amount of magic power in a short time. Keep this for yourself. You're more useful than me. Expressionlessly, Jolanash fished out a handful of dragon blood crystals from her bag. Naya looked at Jolanash speechlessly and silently hung the pendant around her neck. That magical beast's aura is very strong. It should be nearby. It's not disaster level, but close, Jolanash said seriously. Cast a magic shield on yourself first. Jolanash, why are you using your magic shield so early? It will consume too much mana for me to maintain the magic shield. I won't have any extra mana to help you in a battle. I gave you the dragon blood crystal to replenish your mana. Judging from your aura, no matter how much mana you have left, you won't be able to participate in this battle. It's not like I haven't met calamity-level opponents before. Don't underestimate me. Jolanash glanced at Null. There are differences in the level of disaster too. The difference between the strong and the weak can be more than 10 times. What we're facing now is an extremely dangerous magical beast that's close to disaster level. It's worlds apart from the so-called disaster level beasts you've encountered before. You're only slightly stronger than me. Null said stubbornly. Actually, she knew that Jolanash was not just a little stronger than her. They were not on the same level at all. Only when you can maintain the magic shield and mana balance at the same time will you have the right to say that to me. Nar no longer argued. Strength was the best explanation, and it was useless to say more. Suddenly, a violent aura hit them in the face. Null almost lost her footing, and the magic shield on her also rippled. Jolanash frowned. This extremely violent aura was really not like a crystal reindeer. It was more like a carnivorous magical beast. It seemed that the intelligence was wrong. It shouldn't be a crystal reindeer. Jolanash suddenly stood still. Here it comes. That thing is approaching. A red figure appeared 100 meters in front of Jolanash and Nar. It was a reindeer. It was indeed a reindeer. But most of its skin had fallen off, revealing the red crystals inside. And its horns were no longer in the shape of antlers, but spiral demon horns. Its eyes were crimson, and when it opened its mouth, it revealed a mouthful of fangs. Jolanash sucked in a sharp breath. Oh no, that's a mutant. There were mutants in magical beasts too. The appearance of mutant magical beasts was always the case where the strong became stronger and the weak became weaker. For example, the mutant crystal reindeer in front of them. The crystal reindeer was already very strong, and after the mutation, it had surpassed the habits of its species. Its mouthful of fangs was the best proof. That mouthful of sharp teeth was definitely not prepared to be eaten by vegetarians. The crystal reindeer used to be pure white crystals. But now, the crystal exposed by the mutant was like a burning flame. Jolanash immediately raised her arm, and a several-meter-tall frost spirit appeared in front of her. I am Winter. The frost spirit let out a cold and low roar. Go, freeze everything, Jolanash ordered. Nar, on the other hand, was shocked. Frost spirit. A branch of the water element, advanced ice magic. There were a few elders in the family who could cast it, but they needed a long time to chant and prepare before they could barely summon a frost spirit. How could it be so illegal? No chanting, no preparation, and just a raise of the hand to summon one. The frost spirit was covered in ice armor, and inside the armor was a swirling ball of cold air. With a powerful blade, it charged toward the mutant crystal reindeer. Freeze, living thing. The frost spirit rushed to within 10 meters of the mutant crystal reindeer, raised its arm, and shot out an extreme cold air. The mutant crystal reindeer stepped on the ground with its front hooves. In an instant, a circle of hot flames spread out, dissolving the cold air. Then, the mutant crystal reindeer charged forward. Clang! The steel-like ice armor was instantly shattered. In the next instant, the frost spirit's body seemed to have been buried with countless grenades, and it kept exploding. In the end, the frost spirit completely shattered, leaving behind a pile of debris that quickly melted. So strong! Nar exclaimed. Jolanash frowned. So strong. This mutant crystal reindeer seemed a bit too strong. The frost spirit she summoned was also disaster level. But in the blink of an eye, it was killed by the mutant crystal reindeer. It really was a bit too strong. But the strength of the mutant crystal reindeer also ignited Jolanash's fighting spirit. She spread her arms, and a pair of wings formed by cold air appeared on her back. Looks like I have to go all out. Jolanash also released a powerful aura. Chapter 2956. Dozens of fireballs suddenly appeared around the mutant crystal reindeer. Jolanash immediately covered herself with a layer of ice armor. Enar, back off. I don't have time to protect you now. Enar didn't say anything like, I'll stay and help you. That would make her look even more stupid. She decisively backed off. Although she couldn't help Jolanash with her current strength, she didn't want to be a burden to her. At this time, the mutant crystal reindeer attacked. Dozens of fireballs were shot at Jolanash. Jolanash waved one hand and an extremely cold air swept across. The dozens of fireballs all turned into ice lumps and fell to the ground. Jolanash grasped in the air and a pair of ice swords appeared in her palms. Then she shot the ice swords at the crystal reindeer. The demon horn on top of the crystal reindeer's head shot out a red light, shattering one of the ice swords. But the second ice sword followed. Hiss! The ice sword slashed across the demon horn, leaving a scratch on the side. Jolanash was a bit disappointed, but not surprised. However, Jolanash's attack had enraged the mutant crystal reindeer. The mutant crystal reindeer's breath became more violent. Jolanash grasped in the air and a dozen spikes suddenly drilled out of the ground around the crystal reindeer, intertwining with each other. They locked the crystal reindeer's body tightly. The crystal reindeer suddenly howled. The howl wasn't loud, but it was unusually sharp. The sound seemed to have a certain frequency. The fire elements in the air seemed to be ignited. Flames began to appear in the air. Blizzard! Jolanash yelled. The temperature within 1,000 miles instantly dropped. The original flames disappeared and were replaced by the cold temperature. Jolanash raised her arms and slowly rose into the air. Icy meteorite. Whoosh! An ice ball with a diameter of more than 10 meters fell from the sky. Boom! The crystal reindeer didn't back down. Even hotter flames burst out from its demon horn, instantly shattering the falling ice ball. But Jolly-Nash's move was a big one. There was more than one icy meteorite. More and more icy meteorites fell through the blizzard. The mutant crystal reindeer was shocked and hurriedly dodged a falling ice meteorite. However, Jolly-Nash seized the opportunity and reached out to grab the mutant crystal reindeer as it dodged. Ice chains shot out from the snow and bound the mutant crystal reindeer tightly. Although a few of the mutant crystal reindeer managed to break free, there were even more ice chains binding it. Then, another icy meteor smashed into its head. Then the second, the third, the fourth, the violent fire elementals in the surroundings had calmed down. Jolly-Nash let out a long sigh of relief. The consecutive big moves just now had given her quite a bit of pressure. In just a dozen minutes, 60% of his magic power had been consumed. Jolly-Nash sensed and found the location of the mutant crystal reindeer. With a grasp of his palm, the mutant crystal reindeer was lifted into the air, but it was completely frozen. It wasn't completely dead. Jolly-Nash could still feel its presence. However, it was now completely restrained and couldn't move at all. The ice that sealed it was not an ordinary ice block, but a pure frost aura of extreme cold. Its main function was to suppress the fire elementals. Even if the mutant crystal reindeer could still cast magic, the frost would also block its resonance with the fire elementals. Clap, clap, clap. Suddenly, there was a round of applause in the blizzard. Beautiful, so beautiful. Hearing the applause, Jolly-Nash couldn't help but frown. She didn't sense the other person's presence at all. No, how did Nar's presence disappear? Did she die from the shockwave? Jolly-Nash waved her hand, and the blizzard stopped. Not far away, a few people were standing. The leader was a black-haired woman in her early 20s. Behind her were a dozen equally young people. And Nar was being carried by one of the men. However, Nar was unconscious at the moment. Who are you people? I'm Amada. Guys, if it's convenient, can you return my friend to me? Jolly-Nash looked at Amada and the others. Of course. Amada smiled back. But can you give that little guy to me? Jolly-Nash glanced at the frozen mutant crystal reindeer. The little guy you're talking about isn't easy to deal with. It's fine. Didn't you already freeze it? I have to say, you solved a big problem for me. Amada smiled. Its mutated form and its strength both exceeded my expectations. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid I would have to spend a lot of effort to solve this problem. If you want to take it to claim the bounty, I won't object. It's useless to me anyway. But can you return my friend to me first? But Amada shook her head and maintained her smile. She seemed to be chanting some kind of incantation. Jolly-Nash was immediately alerted. The woman in front of her gave her a dangerous feeling. She didn't know anything about the background of these people. But what was certain was that they were definitely not friends. Suddenly, the ice sealing the mutant crystal reindeer vibrated. This vibration was accompanied by a certain frequency. The frequency increased. The next instant, the ice suddenly exploded. Jolly-Nash hurriedly dodged. And the magic inside the mutant crystal reindeer began to grow wildly. It was growing at a frightening speed. Jolly-Nash was about to suppress it. But the next moment, a murderous aura pressed toward Jolly-Nash. Little girl, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, your companion will die even faster. Jolly-Nash's brows showed a hint of darkness. What did you do? Jolly-Nash asked, pointing at the mutant crystal reindeer. Metamorphosis. I made it metamorphose. It hasn't gone through metamorphosis. Jolly-Nash was shocked. She had thought that the mutant crystal reindeer had mutated because of an accident during its metamorphosis. She didn't expect that its mutation wasn't caused by metamorphosis. It was already terrifying enough. With its current strength, it was close to the peak of calamity. It was just one step away from calamity. If it metamorphosed again, it would definitely surpass calamity or even reach an even more terrifying level. What are you trying to do? Amade kept smiling. Don't you understand? It's my pet. Coldness flashed in Jallanash's eyes. In other words, you purposely placed it here to cause trouble. According to the information they had, the mutant crystal reindeer had already caused more than a dozen casualties. Yes, Amade replied calmly. Chapter 2957. Jallanash's hair stood on end in an instant. A magic circle appeared behind Jallanash. These magic circles were arranged in the air, from top to bottom. There was some order in the chaos. Amethy's pupils contracted slightly. Jallanash's strength was really beyond her imagination. She thought that the battle with the mutant crystal reindeer was her limit. She didn't expect that she could release such amazing magic. But Amade didn't panic. Her mouth outlined a confident arc. If you want to kill your companion, just do it. I have to say that your companion's strength is really bad. Maybe you should take this opportunity to change to another companion. It seems to make sense. Jallanash nodded. What? In the next instant, all the magic arrays burst forth with countless spells. All kinds of elemental magic were shot out as if they were free. Water element, ice element, fire element, earth element, lightning element, wind element. Jallanash's magic covered the entire area. Every magic circle behind her was like a continuous firing battery. Everything within a radius of hundreds of meters was covered and attacked. Not good. Defend. Amade finally couldn't maintain her elegant calmness. There were roars everywhere. Smoke and roars were wantonly destroying and destroying. Dewick quickly avoided a magic attack. But the next moment, he suddenly saw Jallanash rushing in front of him. Dewick's face couldn't help but show a grin. Even though he was carrying Nar with one hand. Elemental magic like Jallanash was his most troublesome enemy. It was difficult for his strong body to resist this kind of elemental attack. But he didn't expect Jallanash to approach him. It was not a wise choice. Dewick roared. His right arm suddenly turned black and smashed straight at Jallanash. Jallanash also raised her right arm, but her right arm turned into ice crystals. She directly took Dewick's punch. Dewick felt a piercing pain. Jallanash's right arm was stained with a little blood. It was Dewick's blood sacrifice. Compared to his strength, you are really weak. Jallanash's left hand curled up and rolled Nar into her hand. Dweck didn't expect that he would lose to an elemental enemy in close combat. Dwyko roared and his whole body turned black. Dweck, get away. You're no match for her. The situation was too chaotic. When Amade realized Jallanash's intentions, it was already too late. The only hostage was in Jallanash's hands. And it could be seen from Jallanash's methods and strength. This girl, who looked to be younger than him, had astonishing combat strength and combat experience. Such an opponent, if given sufficient preparation, would definitely be a huge threat. How could Dwyko listen to the words of others at this moment? Dwick ran headlong into Jolene Nash. Jallanash's right arm suddenly turned from ice to lava. He waved his hand at Dwyko. Bang! In the violent explosion, Dweck was thrown more than 10 meters away by the huge impact, and his body was covered in burns. At this moment, an even more terrifying aura spread out from the center of the battlefield. The crystal reindeer had awakened. It had completed its transformation, and its entire body had turned into a red crystal. It was like a perfect work of art. It was so pleasing to the eye, and so full of danger. Jolanash instantly felt a huge pressure, and her body fell from the sky uncontrollably. Perfect. Flame Treader. Kill her. Amatha finally regained her pride. Jolanash's face changed. She felt the pressure from the crystal reindeer. She was not unfamiliar with this kind of pressure. This was a domain. Jolanash knew that she could never defeat an enemy of this level. The mutant crystal reindeer moved at an extremely fast speed. When Jolanash reacted, the crystal reindeer had appeared in front of her. Whoosh! Jolanash looked down at her abdomen, which had been pierced by the crystal reindeer's horn. Jolanash spat out a mouthful of blood. Jolanash grabbed the crystal reindeer's horn. Freeze! In an instant, a terrifying frost poured out from Jolanash's palm. In a very short time, the crystal reindeer was frozen into ice again. But soon, cracks appeared on the ice. It was obvious that this move could no longer seal the crystal reindeer. But even though it was only a few seconds, it was enough. Jolanash grabbed Nar and leapt into the air. Amatha obviously wouldn't let this enemy escape. She raised her palm and aimed in the direction Jolanash escaped. But in the next moment, a terrifying explosion occurred where Amatha was standing. Amatha's heart jumped, and she quickly retracted her hand to ensure that she wouldn't be affected by the impact. When she looked at Jolanash again, she had already disappeared into the night sky. Damn! Amatha's face darkened. That woman was too strong, and her experience was terrifying. She really didn't know how this person was trained. Even in such a short and dangerous situation, she could still analyze calmly and arrange a backup plan. She knew that she was the biggest threat, so before escaping, she had secretly placed a time bomb next to her. When she tried to stop her, she detonated this time bomb. Although she had the flame treader, that girl would still be a threat to her mission. Graham, find out who that girl is, Amatha said. Amatha was already worried about Jolanash. If she didn't have the flame treader on her side, they would probably suffer heavy losses. She alone was enough to suppress her side. In fact, before this, she had already fought against the incomplete flame treader. If she was at her peak, Amatha wasn't confident that she could beat her alone. They both come from the Tylos family, once European nobles. They moved to the American continent 100 years ago. One of them is a genius of the Tylos family, and the other was banished because of her mediocre talent. Now, one of them is a member of the Supernatural Organization in Los Angeles. It's an international organization. Amatha nodded. I didn't expect the Supernatural Organization to be something. No, Graham said. They're not famous in the supernatural world. They're even a joke. An organization that even the supernatural community can't deal with. How is that possible? That's the truth. In addition, the powerful woman just now is an exiled member of the Tyros family. The other girl we control is the genius of the Tyros family. Amatha's eyes widened. She turned to look at Graham. Do we have a misunderstanding about the definition of genius? This is all the information I can find for now, Graham replied. Chapter 2958. We can't give them a chance to react, Amatha said. It doesn't matter if the supernatural organization is really powerful or just one or two of them. Also, that woman must have escaped back to the organization. We'll wipe out their base. Amatha said. She was not acting blindly. They didn't lose much, or rather, not much. Everyone maintained a certain level of combat power. Amatha was confident that even in a head-on fight, they wouldn't lose. Plus, one of the enemy's strongest fighters couldn't fight anymore. Plus, with the sudden attack, they wouldn't be able to organize an effective defense. Help! In a daze, Adus heard someone call for help. The next moment, he suddenly woke up and jumped up from his bed. Outside the metal door, Nar was supporting Jolanash, who was covered in blood. Shocked, Adus hurriedly opened the door and helped Nar support Jolanash. What happened? Adus asked. How did this happen? I don't know. I don't know what happened, Nar said and suddenly broke down in tears. Nar herself was also very confused. She still didn't understand what was going on. She only remembered that Jolanash and the mutant crystal reindeer had fought. Then she told her to stay away and she'd done so. After that, she didn't know what had happened. When she woke up again, she'd been dragged into the air by Jolanash. Then she'd fallen with Jolanash. Luckily, Nar had woken up and didn't cause any problems. Then she'd stumbled back to the headquarters. Luckily, she still knew the way here. Nar explained with tears and snot all over his face. Adus felt a headache coming on. Wait, I'll call the others. Adus was a normal person. So, he didn't know how to deal with the current situation. He didn't know how to save people either. Just then, a gust of cold wind blew. Pamela appeared first. What happened to Jolanash? Why is she so badly hurt? Adus and Nar couldn't tell either. Pamela's head hurt too. Forget it, Adus. Tell the others. I'll stabilize her injuries. Pamela pulled back Jocelyn Nash's shirt. Jocelyn Nash had a horrible wound on her stomach. Pamela spat out a mouthful of cold air at Jolanash's wound. Mr. West, Jolanash is hurt. She's badly hurt and we don't know what's going on. Should you come and take a look? All right, I'll be right there. Do you need me to inform the guild leader? Not for now, West said. Help me inform Gaia, Hallis, and Elite. West regarded Qin Zhao as a nuclear weapon. They couldn't just deploy the nuclear weapons without knowing anything, right? Gaia glanced at the time. 3 a.m. All right, although I don't really want to wake up at this time. But from what Adus said, the situation seemed urgent. Gaia quickly washed himself to wake up. He immediately drove the car out of the garage. The phone rang again. It was Hallis. Hey. Helios, did you get Adus' call too? Yes, I'm already on the road into the forest. I'll be there in about 10 minutes. Just then, a beam of red light suddenly hit Gaia's car. A fireball sent Gaia's car into the sky. Then it crashed heavily onto the ground. Gaia stood up from the flames. He was still holding the phone in his hand. Okay, maybe 10 minutes isn't enough. I'll hang up first. Gaia tried to hang up, but the screen had already cracked. Helpless, Gaia crushed the phone that he had used for less than 2 months. 3 people appeared on the side of the road. We're so lucky. We actually caught 2 big fish. Duik laughed wildly. Fuck. Gaia suddenly sprinted and appeared before Duik at an astonishing speed. Watch out, Duik's companions exclaimed, but their warning was too late. By the time Dedwick reacted, a fist as big as a casserole was already in front of him. Bang! Duik's face was deformed by Gaia's punch. But to Gaia's surprise, the man in front of him didn't fall. Under normal circumstances, that kind of deformed head would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. But this man was still standing. What surprised Gaia even more was that Duik's deformed face was constantly returning to normal. What great strength, what a heavy fist. Duik was also amazed by Gaia's terrible punch. Not dead. Is it because I just woke up in a bad state? Gaia looked at Duke doubtfully. Female T-Rex, I won't make the same mistake a second time. It seems that I need to show my true strength. As he spoke, Duke's body turned black again. Duke also sprinted and punched. Gaia moved the joints of her right hand. Looking at the oncoming Duke, she raised her fist to meet it. Bang! Duke's whole body was sent flying. Gaia didn't move. Dwiko's two companions saw that Dwiko was defeated by the opponent. They immediately launched an attack on Gaia. One of the blonde men put his palms together and shouted, "Condemnation." Gaia's neck and arms were suddenly shackled, a shackle made of pure energy. Judgment. The other man also shouted loudly. A beheading axe made of energy fell from the sky and landed directly on the back of Gaia's neck. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. The blade of the beheading axe cut half an inch into the back of Gaia's neck. The beheading axe also shattered. Gaia staggered 2 steps and touched the back of her neck. Her hand was covered in her own blood. The injury wasn't serious, but it made Gaia scared. If the opponent was just a little bit stronger, she would have been beheaded. Damn, even Judgment couldn't cut off his head. Gaia took out a dragon blood crystal and stuffed it directly into her mouth. The other people in the supernatural organization used the dragon blood crystal as a magic tool to restore magic. Gaia was different. She could eat it directly, so the effect was obviously several times better than the others. It even had an amazing effect on her injuries. Soon, Gaia felt the wound on the back of her neck begin to heal and stop bleeding. Let's go. The 3 saw that Gaia was recovering very quickly and knew that they couldn't handle it. Gaia still couldn't move her neck freely. She was afraid that she would lose her head after 2 steps. She could only watch the 3 disappear into the dense forest with hatred. Damn bastards, I'll skin you alive sooner or later. Who are you going to skin? Black Liz's voice came. When did you arrive? Black Liz. I just arrived and saw you let those 3 go. Why didn't you stop them? Chapter 2959. I sensed a powerful aura in the forest. I'm worried that it's an ambush, Helei said calmly. Plus, even you, the top fighter of the supernatural organization, suffered a loss. I don't dare to take the risk. Those guys are very strange. Gaia laughed angrily. She believed Helei's first sentence. However, the latter sentence was obviously mocking him. On the surface, she was the top fighter. In fact, among the top 5, Ingalit, Harold, Jolanash, Norma, and himself, apart from Jolanash who was slightly weaker, none of the other 4 dared to say that they were stronger than each other. Plus, the 4 of them were good at different things. Therefore, unless they really fought to the death, it would be very difficult for the few of them to determine who was stronger. Then, the 2 arrived at the headquarters. Ingalit was already there. When he saw Gaia covered in blood, Ingalit was shocked. Gaia, what happened to you? I was attacked on the way, Gaia said angrily. Where's the enemy? He ran away. Gaia was even more annoyed. After a while, West's car arrived. Damn, I was attacked on the way, West said with a dark face. This is war. War. West was actually as strong as anyone in the organization. But he wasn't good at attacking. After knowing that Gaia had been attacked and was injured, West was suddenly not angry. At least he wasn't hurt and his car wasn't damaged. Thinking that Gaia's Hummer was ruined, West felt much better for no reason. At the thought of Gaia's Hummer being scrapped, West felt a lot better for some reason. After a while, Norma arrived as well. More accurately, she was attacked. But before the enemy attacked, she put them to sleep. However, before the other party could launch an attack, she put him to sleep first. Of the 5 captains, except for the seriously injured Jolanash, the other 4 were all there. West, do you know who they are? West shook his head. I'm afraid only Jolanash knows something, but she's unconscious. I came into contact with them and injured one of them. That person is an enhancer. His strength is only average, but he has an amazing regenerative ability. I don't know if it's because of his unique magic or if it's because of some other reason. Also, 2 of them are using very special magic. It feels very similar to the Cross Church, but I don't feel the power of holy light. There's a very terrifying existence among them. I sensed a faint aura just now, Helei said. Really? Gaia asked in surprise. Harold looked at Gaia. Do you think I'm joking? All right. West couldn't help but frown. What's the level of that terrifying aura? I don't know. It's possible that he has reached or is close to the level of Kong Mosa, who once besieged us. So strong. That's what I feel from the aura alone. As for the specifics, I can't say for sure. We'll have to fight to find out. Norma looked at everyone's solemn expression and said, if it's an enemy like this, can the few of us deal with it? Aren't we going to inform the others and the president? West pondered for a moment. Forget about the others. If it's an opponent of this level, it'll be very difficult for them to help. Also, the president, in the battle a year ago, when we faced Kong Mosa, we couldn't do anything. In the end, the president could only turn the tide alone. In this year, I feel that I've grown a lot. Helei said calmly. I want to see if I have the right to participate in this battle. Although Helei's tone was calm, there was an uncontrollable excitement in it. Although I don't really want to fight, I also want to test my growth, Norma said, changing from her weak personality. Before the battle, do you want to buy insurance? Angelit asked. Didn't you already resign? Although I resigned, if you need me, I can contact my former colleagues. I can even take a commission. I was almost beheaded just now, Gaia said, gritting her teeth. I won't make the same mistake twice. Count me in. Pamela appeared like a ghost, along with her Banshee army. As soon as they appeared, the temperature in the conference room dropped to freezing point. No matter how high you are now, remember that the president isn't here. No one will back us up, West said solemnly. Since they dared to attack us, it means that they are not to be underestimated, West said sternly. Don't think too highly of yourselves. Gaia is a good example. A few lads who are much weaker than her nearly beheaded her. West, can you not use me as an example? Gaia felt that the previous attack was likely to be a black mark on her life. Dedwick, Longsa, Davis, the 3 of you failed. Yes, we met a big woman. The first time Dedwick fought with her, he was forced out of his incarnation. Davis and I jointly released Judgment of Crime. She actually took our attack head-on and didn't die. Then she took a potion to quickly suppress her injuries. We could only retreat, Longsa said. How strong is the big woman compared to the previous elemental witch? It's hard to compare. That big woman probably didn't use her full strength. She probably can't compare to the elemental witch. Alma frowned. It seems that the supernatural organization is more unfathomable than expected. They can still escape unscathed from the 3 of you. At this moment, 3 more people came back. The 3 of them supported each other, and their expressions were quite bad. When they returned to Alma, the 3 of them knelt on the ground, exhausted. What happened to you? Did you also encounter a counterattack? Big Sister Alma, we saw a car coming. We were about to stop it, but for some reason, we fell asleep. When we woke up, we felt as if we had gone through a huge battle. Our stamina, mana, and energy were all exhausted. Alma went forward to check on the three. Their magic was indeed very overdrawn. This made her a little puzzled. What kind of magic did they use to make them like this without a sound? From the information they had so far, it could be seen that the information Groom had obtained was not accurate. Or rather, the difference was too great. With the strength that the supernatural organization had shown, how could they not even deal with a supernatural community? Unless the community was full of evil spirits above the calamity level, how could they not be able to deal with it? Chapter 2960. Alma started to doubt herself. Whether this operation was the right decision. This had never happened before. Alma was an extremely confident person. She never doubted any of her decisions or actions. Although her subordinates all claimed that Amethy's decision was very decisive. But once the action failed, being decisive would only become rash and impulsive. Damn, why would she have such a thought? So what if the other side had a few more elemental witches? She had a few trump cards in her hands. Any one of them was enough to turn the situation around. She was the genius of the Fellner family. A mere Los Angeles couldn't possibly stop him. Now, the new generation of the clan's leaders were constantly reporting the situation of the war to the clan. Most of the new leaders brought back good news. Alma felt that she was better than the new generation. Since they could easily gain an advantage. There was no reason for her to be stopped by a small supernatural organization. Amethyst's gaze suddenly focused into the darkness. Then she relaxed her brows. It seemed that she didn't have to worry about it anymore. The other side was here. The arrow was knocked on the bow. For both sides, there was no way out. West, Gaia, Helis, Engelite, Norma, and the Banshee army led by Pamela. There weren't many of them, but their aura was shocking. In an instant, the new generation of the Fellner family, led by Alma, were like frightened birds. They had never really interacted with the spiritualists from the outside world. Other than Alma, most of them were just noobs with abilities. Silence, Alma scolded with a frown. She had to admit that compared to the supernatural organization's imposing formation, their side was indeed a bit messy and uncoordinated. But Alma wasn't worried. She had her trump cards, and the new generation she led didn't lack strength. They just lacked experience. Perhaps this battle could transform them. Remember what you learned in the family. Those things can help you survive and defeat the enemy. West walked out slowly. Young man, you definitely don't know what you're facing. That's not good. Alma sneered at West. You don't know what you're up against. The last guy who used his seniority to talk to me like this has been burned to ashes. What an arrogant young man. West, I think we should make a move now. Your opening speech has made us feel inferior to the little guys on the other side. But before West could give the order for an all-out war, Alma couldn't hold it in any longer. Kill them. These were the new generation of Felix. When they heard Amethyst's extremely arrogant words, their blood was already boiling. At this moment, they could not hold back their soaring fighting spirit. At Amethyst's command, they all rushed to the battlefield. West and the others looked at each other. West said quietly, "Which one of you wants to do it?" Halis took a step forward. She looked younger than everyone present. She seemed to be underage. Alma was a little uncomfortable with the goth girl in front of her when she saw Helith walking forward. He didn't know why, but he just felt uncomfortable. But on second thought, this goth girl was so young. How strong could she be? Hallie slowly raised her right arm. The darkness in the forest started to awaken. The unclean dead were awakened. They had rotting or decaying bodies. Green flames of the netherworld burned in their eye sockets. Hallie's was like the Lady of Death. The aura of death turned into her wings and lifted her into the air. The army of death had gathered and was just waiting for her order. The new generation of Felix, who had been burning with fighting spirit just a moment ago. Now, they were like ducks that had been caught by the throat. The clamor and cheers came to an abrupt halt. Amada widened her eyes and looked at Hallie's in shock. She looked at the endless army of death around her. Necromancer. The goth girl wasn't just a necromancer. She was also a terrifyingly powerful necromancer. Compared to Jolanash, this was even more shocking. Let these little guys become one of you, Harold coldly ordered. Amada finally could not sit back and watch. She had thought that her subordinates were strong enough. They just lacked experience. But now she understood. Compared to the guys on the other side, they were indeed not strong enough. They were indeed lacking in strength. Compared to those fellows on the other side, they were still too far behind. The new generation struggled to resist the army of death. The first wave of skeleton soldiers didn't pose much of a threat to them. But it still gave them a lot of trouble. They couldn't advance or retreat. They could only keep smashing the skeleton soldiers. The skeleton soldiers couldn't cause them any casualties. They could only consume their magic power. Amada took out a cane and raised it high. She shouted, "Source Awakening." From the sapphire embedded at the top of the cane, a light wave bloomed. The light wave didn't have any killing power, but it instantly restored the magic power of the new generation that was touched by the light wave. Hallie's, looks like your consumption plan didn't work, Gaia said. Hallie shrugged. She didn't expect this move to decide the outcome. She was just testing the other side's strength. In the past, this Death Kingdom could be considered her ultimate move. Now, it was basically a second-line move. Gaia took a step forward. Amada noticed Gaia's action immediately. She remembered that DWICK and the other two talked about the big woman they met. It should be this woman. How would she attack? She should be an enhancer, right? Gaia suddenly launched a charge. Sure enough, it was an enhancer. But Gaia's body suddenly changed halfway. Roar, a loud dragon roar resounded through the forest. Amethyst's pupils suddenly shrank. Dragon. A giant dragon. Although it looked like a young dragon. But it was enough to make people's scalp tingle. DWACK, Longsa, and Davis were busy dealing with the skeleton soldiers around them at the moment. When they saw Gaia transform into a giant dragon, they almost peed their pants. They actually went to snipe a giant dragon. Furthermore, he had almost beheaded the dragon. If they had succeeded in the end, it would have been enough for them to brag about for the rest of their lives. But now they were only glad that they ran fast just now. Otherwise, they would never be able to leave. After Gaia transformed into a giant dragon, she rushed directly towards Davis. Obviously, Davis had almost beheaded her just now. Gaia couldn't take this matter to heart. Amada was completely speechless. What was going on with them? Why were there so many top combatants? This was North America, the weakest region in the supernatural world. Chapter 2961. But Amada didn't have time to think. If she hesitated for one more second, Davis would die under Gaia's claws. Pointing her wand at Gaia, a purple light burst out. Gaia seemed to sense the threat. It immediately turned its head and spat out a dragon breath. The breath collided with the purple light. In an instant, it was as if the stars had shattered. Everyone lost their vision in an instant. Amatha also lost her sight temporarily. But she didn't panic. Instead, she stayed vigilant. At this moment, she suddenly saw a ball of green flames ignite not far away. Amatha was shocked. She saw it clearly. It was two nightmare beasts descending from the sky. And the two nightmare beasts were being held by one hand. Norma was riding on a carriage, riding on the two nightmare beasts. Ametha's expression became even more serious. It was a rare encounter. Today, all of them had gathered together. All kinds of monsters had gathered together today. The sound of hooves in the sky was crisp and pleasant. It was clearly the sound of hooves, but it sounded like some dreamy music. Amatha felt her eyelids getting heavier. Not only her, but the younger generation of the Felix family was the same. They all started to feel sleepy and tired. Suddenly, Amatha felt a surge of power in her hand. Amatha woke up in an instant. How could she lose so much magic power? Even the wand in her hand transferred magic power to her. If she wasn't holding the wand of origin, she probably wouldn't even realize that her magic power was gone. Fear rose in Amatha's heart. This nightmare beast was too terrifying. It had silently hypnotized her. Amatha hurriedly raised her wand and chanted, "Wake up, brothers and sisters. If you don't want to sleep forever, wake up." The wand in Amatha's hand released even more magic power, which instantly flowed into the bodies of the younger generation. All the younger generation woke up from the dream. West looked at the wand in Amatha's hand from afar. "That thing is a divine artifact, right?" Engelit nodded. "It should be. Even from so far away, I can feel the majestic magic power on it. We have to find a way to restrain that thing. Otherwise, this battle will be difficult." Engelit began to warm up. He jumped on the spot and danced as if he was doing radio gymnastics. Amatha had actually been paying attention to Engelit. Engelit hadn't made a move yet, but since he could stand with the other top forces, his strength shouldn't be underestimated. Suddenly Amatha noticed that Engelit had disappeared. That person made a move. Where is he? Amatha's eyes swept across the battlefield. No. He's not there either. Where is he hiding? In the next instant, Amatha suddenly felt her hands empty. The wand of origin. English had returned to West's side. He had already stolen the wand of origin. How do you use this? Can you use it? Engelit tossed the wand of origin to West. West fiddled with it for a while and shook his head. I can't use it. I guess I'll need a unique incantation or special magic to activate it. Amatha's hair stood on end. That guy's speed was too fast. She had never seen a spiritualist so fast. In the past, she had also met enhancers who specialized in speed. But there was absolutely no one who could be mentioned in the same breath as that person. He was like a bolt of lightning. Losing the wand of origin meant that she had lost a trump card. The new generation of the Philly family saw that Amatha's wand of origin had been taken by the enemy. They couldn't help but pale with fright. Amatha's face was clouded over. Clearly, the supernatural organization was far more powerful than she had imagined. She really didn't understand what kind of person could gather so many top experts. Amatha couldn't help but look at West. That old man hadn't made a move yet. Perhaps his strength was the strongest. In other words, he was also waiting for an opportunity. Amatha didn't panic. Although the enemy had taken the wand of origin, he didn't know how to use it. And her trump card wasn't just the wand of origin. Amatha took out 3 gems. The first one was red. Amatha flicked her finger. The moment the red gem landed on the ground, the surrounding air instantly became scorching hot. Flame treader. Wrapped in flames, it charged over. At the same time, it had a powerful domain. The appearance of the flame treader caused the expressions of everyone in the supernatural organization to change. The demon horn on the flame treader's head suddenly shot out a beam of red light. The next instant, dozens of extremely cold frost shot out. Pamela and her banshee army had attacked. Amatha frowned again. She had to admit that she had encountered too many surprises tonight. She had thought that Pamela and the others were just ordinary evil spirits, perhaps at disaster level. She hadn't expected these spirits to be so strong, especially Pamela. When she didn't attack, she was nothing special. But when she attacked, she was at the limit of disaster level. The strength of the other spirit bodies hovered around calamity level. These spirits were all of the ice element, which countered the flame treader. And the flame treader's domain wasn't very effective against the spirits. The scorching flames and extreme frost collided. For now, there was no clear winner. Amatha's expression grew darker and darker. The second blue gem landed on the ground. Whoosh, a strong gust of wind blew past. A huge feathered serpent god appeared on the battlefield. It was also a disaster level. Plus, it had a huge body. As soon as it appeared, the situation was completely unbalanced. Roar, suddenly, a dragon roar came from the distance. A huge shadow descended from the sky. Sabonis appeared. Without a word, it charged at the feathered serpent god. The two beasts were about the same size, but Sabonis was clearly stronger. His firebird domain also countered the feathered serpent god. Amatha turned pale with fright. What was going on? Why did the supernatural organization have such terrifying combat power? Even a dragon had appeared. And this dragon wasn't Gaia's baby form. This was a real dragon, and an adult one at that. That extremely strong body. The firebird domain was even more oppressive than the flame treader's domain. And the dragon breath, which proved that dragons were invincible. Even the feathered serpent god could only be pressed against the ground against Sabonis. Sabonis was an earth element giant dragon, and his body was larger than other elements of the same element. And he was also the most powerful among the other elements. In addition, during this period of time, he had more or less eaten a few dragon balls of the same species. Although it didn't give him a qualitative leap, his strength had increased a lot. Amatha knew that she couldn't wait any longer. The opponent's big boss hadn't made a move yet. And the current situation was very unfavorable for her side. Not only was there a clear difference in strength between her little brother and the opponent, but his experience was also far beyond the opponent's. Both the flame treader and the feathered serpent god had met their match. The flame treader had the upper hand, but it was difficult to win. But that dragon had a huge advantage against her feathered serpent god. It probably wouldn't be long before it was completely defeated. Amatha threw down the third gem. Top. Chapter 2962. The third gem glowed with a blue light. Lion head, lion body, dragon horns, eagle beak, eagle wings, eagle claws, and scorpion tail. A 10-meter-long griffin appeared in front of them. The griffin also released a powerful domain. Another disaster-level creature. It was even more powerful than Flame Treader and Quetzalcoatl. It was said that griffins had dragon blood. However, they feed on dragons. Just by looking at its size, an adult griffin would be more than 10 meters long. An adult dragon was 100 meters long. The two were almost disproportionate. But griffins were the natural enemies of dragons. The griffin's claws could easily tear through dragon scales. The scorpion tail was also highly toxic and could paralyze dragons. Sabonis bristled as soon as the griffin appeared. He also felt a great threat. At this moment, West finally made a move. In fact, he hadn't done anything earlier because he wanted to intimidate the enemy. But he couldn't hide in the back anymore. Seeing West's movement, Amethyst's heart tightened. Was the enemy's big boss finally going to make a move? The griffin tried to attack Sabonis as soon as it appeared. But West clenched his fist. Instantly, the griffin froze in midair. Amethyst's expression changed. He was indeed strong. He could control the griffin's movements. West gritted his teeth. He was going all out. Indeed, it was too much. West wore 5 rings on his other hand. Magic power recovery, magic enhancement, spell enhancement, casting acceleration, and magic power amplification. Amethyst suddenly sensed danger. Clang! Amethyst's magic shield had just been set up when it exploded. Engelit appeared not far away from Amethyst. Engelit dropped the dagger that had lost a corner and drew a similar dagger from his waist, the dragon-tooth dagger. Amazing! What kind of defensive spell is this? Amethyst was also shocked. She had the Immortal's protection. What was an Immortal? It was literally an unbreakable protection. In the past, a powerful spiritualist called the Immortal had created this spell. This Immortal had been competing with defensive magic all along. He knew how to make his spells indestructible. The Immortal's protection was his proudest defensive spell. Of course, it was not that the Immortal's protection could not be destroyed, but it needed to be more than 10 times stronger than the spellcaster to shatter it. But the other party had actually destroyed the Immortal's protection with a single strike. How could Amethyst know that Engelit was strong? But what really worked was the dragon-tooth dagger in Engelit's hand. However, the dragon-tooth dagger was also damaged. But Engelit didn't feel bad about it at all. They had plenty of dragon fangs. On the other side, West was under the most pressure. Although the griffin was temporarily restrained, it was not a problem. However, the difference in strength between West and Griffin was huge. Suddenly, the griffin's figure flashed more than 10 meters away. This was the griffin's innate ability, blink. Amethyst knew that it looked like a draw. However, the collapse of any single point could affect the entire battle. At the moment, it was hard to say who would win and who would lose. It all depended on whose point would collapse first. Amethyst once again raised the protection of the Immortals. This was the 4th time she had invoked the protection of the Immortal. Engelite's super speed made her unable to retaliate. He didn't know how to fight back. Engelit was too fast. Of course, apart from breaking the shield, Engelit couldn't take Amethyst down immediately. His weak point in attack power was also revealed. Amethyst was more dangerous than he thought. Engelit wasn't in a hurry. He started strolling around Amethyst. Amethyst also felt the danger Engelit was in. "Hey, fast guy, how about we talk? If you join me now, I can give you anything you want. Of course, I won't ask you to help me deal with your former companions as long as you leave now," Amethyst said. "But I don't dare. I'm afraid our boss will twist my head off and kick it like a ball," Engelit teased. "I can protect you." "No, you can't protect me. I alone have already rendered all of you powerless. Even your boss can barely control my baby. Isn't that enough to prove my strength? You seem to be mistaken. West isn't our boss," Engelit said with a smile. "Oh. He isn't." Amethyst grasped the key point. "But it doesn't matter. Whether your boss comes or not, it can't change anything. Even if he comes, he can't change the fate of failure. When you say that in front of my boss, you'd better prepare some life-saving trump cards. Then your boss better bring more people, too. Otherwise, there won't be enough for me to kill. Amada suddenly took out 3 different colored gems. Angelite's pupils constricted. The 3 gems Amada had thrown out earlier had summoned Flame Treader, Serpent God, and Griffin. The situation was barely balanced now. If Amada summoned 3 magical beasts of the same level, she wouldn't fight anymore. Then stop fighting and just raise your hands to surrender. He had to admit that Amada was powerful. She was basically one of the top fighters in the supernatural organization. Even the equipment that she carried with her was extraordinary. Basically, they were either relic or close to it. Although Ruan Faxben said that the magic tools and equipment he made were all at the level of relic. But the reality was that compared to real relic, the difference wasn't just a little bit. Amada pondered for a moment and did not throw the 3 gems out. Instead, she put them back. Why aren't you summoning the 3 magical beasts? Is there not enough magic power? Angelite heaved a sigh of relief. After all, if Amada really summoned 3 disaster-level magical beasts, there would really be no way to fight. No, I have a better idea. Amada put away the 3 gems, but took out a bracelet and put it on her right wrist. Angelite immediately became vigilant. A smile appeared on Amethyst's face. Griffin, come. Suddenly, the griffin under West's control disappeared. What's going on? Wester relaxed and looked around. Where's the griffin? In an instant, Amethyst's body emitted the aura of a griffin. Amethyst's figure flashed and appeared 100 meters away. Oh no! Angelite saw it. The bracelet that Amada had just put on could borrow the power of demons. However, what puzzled Angelite was that Amada wasn't going to help her men. Her movements were a little unfathomable. Wait! That direction was their headquarters. Angelite, go after her. West reacted first. Amada was heading for their headquarters. Chapter 2963. The idea of loving Martha is simple. Looking at the situation tonight, it seemed that her wish would not be fulfilled. And if they missed tonight, the supernatural organization would definitely be on alert. The next time they started a war, it would not be as easy as today. In any case, tonight's operation was doomed to fail. But Amada was not satisfied. Since he couldn't defeat the supernatural organization in one go, he would give them an unforgettable wound. Amada flashed a few times and arrived above the headquarters of the supernatural organization. Suddenly, Amada sensed something beneath the headquarters of the supernatural organization. There seemed to be something good down there. Amethyst's heart jumped. These people from the supernatural organization were so strong. Did he discover some kind of treasure? Amada flashed again and appeared in the underground of the supernatural organization headquarters. Amada found that there were many glass-enclosed rooms. There were people locked inside. Those people also looked at Amada with very surprised eyes. Amada drew a line in the air with her finger and directly broke the glass. You're free. However, no one came out. All the prisoners were still in their rooms. Aren't you coming out? At this moment, an old man opened his turbid eyes and looked at Amada. I look forward to you becoming one of us, if you're still alive. Ha! So it's a bunch of cowards. I've already defeated the supernatural organization, and you don't even have the courage to step out of the prison. What a bunch of pathetic losers. You defeated their president. The president you speak of doesn't even have the courage to appear. He doesn't even have the qualifications to be my enemy. Amada said arrogantly, forget it. The door has already been opened for you. Whether you leave or not is your own business. It has nothing to do with me. Amethyst flashed downwards again. She could sense that there was an immense amount of magic down there. At this time, Amethyst saw huge heads. Amethyst's pupils suddenly contracted. Most of them were giant dragon heads. A few of them were the largest, even though they were already dead. However, it still emanated a terrifying aura. There were also 2 dragon horns. The length and size of these 2 dragon horns were quite astonishing. All the dragon heads added together were not as big as these 2 dragon horns. There were still bloodstains on it, and it looked like it had just been plucked. The hair on Amethyst's body stood on end. Why were there so many dragon heads hidden here? Amethyst hesitated, then blinked down again. Hidden below were piles of dragon balls. Too many. How could there be so many dragon balls? Who killed so many giant dragons? The people from the supernatural organization. That was impossible. Putting aside the Earth Dragon, even if all of them worked together, they might not be able to defeat a dragon. Not to mention killing so many giant dragons. Amethyst suddenly thought of the prisoners on the upper floors. They seemed to be quite afraid of the president whom they had never met before. Amethyst's heart tightened. It can't be. It can't be, he was just a coward who didn't dare to show his face. No one had ever been able to kill so many dragons. Perhaps it was just a collection of some ancient faction. Love Martha tried to convince herself. But the bloodstains on the dragon heads and dragon balls already explained everything. It was not some ancient collection. They had all been dissected not long ago. There were still remnants of the dragon clan's aura on it, as well as their unresigned resentment. You'd better run now, run away from here, run away from Los Angeles, run back to your family and seek shelter from your people, Angelite's voice came. At some point, he had already appeared at the entrance of the lower storeroom. Amethyst turned to look at Angelite. You think I'm scared? You should be. But that doesn't scare me. My family also has the ability to hunt dragons, Amethyst said stubbornly. Then inform your family and quietly wait for the day of your clan's extermination. I'll wait for you and your president to come. With that, Amethyst blinked and left the underground storeroom. Amethyst fled. Yes, she knew she was on the run. She could feel that Angelite wasn't joking. He wasn't trying to scare her. He was stating a fact. As if the outcome had already been decided. Amethyst didn't know why the president was so strong. Why didn't he appear tonight? Maybe he wasn't in Los Angeles. She was lucky, or unlucky. Amethyst couldn't care less about the new generation of her race. The new generation was cannon fodder, targets that could be sacrificed and abandoned. But Amethyst still felt uneasy. The scene she had seen in the supernatural organization's headquarters. It was like a nightmare that kept haunting her. She couldn't get rid of it, even though the sky was bright, she still couldn't get rid of the uneasiness. Amethyst changed her appearance and even temporarily sealed her mana source. She made herself look like an ordinary girl. President, something happened at the headquarters. Do you have time now? Huh? What happened at the headquarters? The prisoners broke out. I didn't, West said awkwardly. Last night, the few of them were extremely confident. Each and every one of them was flying high. No matter who came, they would take care of them. And then they were almost taken care of. If Sabonis hadn't joined the battle, they would probably have been beaten up. They said that they didn't need Qin Zhao, but Sabonis was actually one of Qin Zhao's forces. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that they lost. Even though they didn't suffer any real losses. Even though they had captured many people. Even so, they still felt that they had lost. What they needed was a mental and physical victory. Of course, their opponent last night was indeed abnormal. Those treasures and divine artifacts had all been taken out like they were free. They had lost because of their opponent's wealth. But no matter what the reason was, in conclusion, they had still lost. It wasn't a complete defeat, but at least they had been humiliated. They couldn't accept it. Very much so. So this time, they had to get back at them. But they probably wouldn't be able to get back at them for the rest of their lives. They had no choice. Their opponent was too strong. It was useless no matter how strong they were. They had thrown divine artifacts at them casually. Amatha wasn't that strong. At least any one of them was confident that they could beat her. But Amatha's divine artifacts made them helpless. So, they could only ask Chen Zhao for help this time. They didn't want to defeat Amatha. They wanted to defeat Amatha's family. Chapter 2964. When Chen Zhao arrived at the headquarters, he realized that West, Engelite, Gaia, Hallis, and Norma were all injured. What happened? Chen Zhao and the other members who had just arrived at the headquarters were all confused. They had no idea what was going on. We were attacked. Who? Psionic team. Not the psionic team. West shook his head. Just then, Gaia carried someone out. It was Duok. Gaia kicked Duok's calf. Duok knelt on the ground. But he still stared at everyone stubbornly. Who is he? Our captive. That means we won last night's battle, right? No, it's a draw. More accurately, we lost. Gaia's straightforwardness was unacceptable to West. He'd wanted to modify it and explain in a roundabout way. In the end, Gaia had completely embarrassed them. Your failure is just the beginning. Soon, the lady will come back for revenge. You, and you, none of you can escape. Duok pointed at Chen Zhao in the end. Don't be like this. Actually, I don't want to fight. Can I go to your family and apologize? If we offended you in any way or did something wrong, we're willing to apologize. We can compensate anything as long as we can stop this war. The others stood at the side expressionlessly. His guild leader was acting like a drama queen again. Ha! No need to apologize. You just have to wait for death. Duok didn't have the self-cultivation of a captive at all. Moreover, he really thought that Chen Zhao was begging him. Shouldn't you show that you're willing to give me a chance, introduce me to the leader of your family, and then bring me to the headquarters of your family, where you will fall out with me, humiliate me in public, and kill me without an intact body? President, there's no need to be so troublesome. The captives have already confessed. They're from the Fellner family. Their headquarters is in Seattle. They call themselves a millennium-old family. Then why did they attack us? Your existence is the reason, Duok said coldly. Why does this kid always say such stupid things? Chen Zhao asked, pointing at Duok. A family-style brainwashing education, West said. You've already captured her. How are you going to lose? Chen Zhao was even more confused. Hearing that, West's face turned bitter. Looking at the crowd, he sighed and said, We didn't lose, but we didn't win either. The key problem is that the other party suppressed all of us with just one person. Chen Zhao more or less understood what West meant. It's fine, Chen Zhao comforted. Actually, you didn't lose to that woman. You lost to her divine weapon. It's not a big deal. You can take revenge later. Dwiko felt that this group of people were sore losers. He still firmly believed. Loving Martha is just a strategic retreat. Soon, she would regroup and come back. At that time, He could even work together with Amada. However, Chen Zhao really didn't know how to comfort people. In any case, West and the others looked as if their fathers had died. Why don't we go and deal with that Felix family today? Jolanash is still unconscious. I'm sure she wants us to wait for her. Jolene, is Nash badly hurt? Very. Take me to see her. NR stayed by Jolanash's side the whole time. He had been worried for the entire night. Chen Zhao came in to check on Jolanash's injuries. NR stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. Mr. President, how is Jolanash? She's pretty badly hurt, but it's not life-threatening. When will she wake up? If you keep crying here, you'll probably wake her up. Ah. Then I won't cry. I'll go out and cry for a while more. Tell me what's going on. NR stuttered for a long time but couldn't explain clearly. She didn't know what was going on either. It was mainly because she was too weak. Last night, Jolanash told her to stay away. In the end, Amma then knocked her out. She was even a hostage. But she knew nothing about it. Whatever. Pretend I didn't ask. Keep crying. Patting NR, Chen Zhao turned and left the room. Chen Zhao called West and walked around the man-made lake. Did you find the woman who escaped? No. Forget it. It doesn't matter where she hides. We'll find her family in the end. Chen Zhao waved his hand. Have you heard of that 1,000-year-old family? Do you know what's going on? I've heard a little. It's a name that appeared in the Middle Ages. It usually refers to families that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years and have a deep history. Have you heard of this Felix family? No, I've never heard of it. Nowadays, there are only a handful of millennium-old families left in Europe. There's no need to investigate them. For those families, this title is glory and wealth. Of course, it's also pressure. However, there's basically no family that would deliberately conceal their identity and hide in order to reduce the pressure. So, this Felix family probably has some tricks up their sleeves. You're saying that this Felix family isn't an ancient family in Europe? President, how long has it been since the American continent was discovered? The real Great Immigration era is even shorter, so there can't be a 1,000-year-old family in America. Even South America doesn't have one. So, if this Felix family is really a 1,000-year-old family, it must be from Europe. But didn't you say that the 1,000-year-old families in Europe can be counted on your fingers? I didn't say that they came recently. Now, the biggest possibility is that they came decades ago, or even hundreds of years ago. Maybe they were hunted in Europe, or their clan was exterminated, so they fled to the American continent and hid their identity. This is the most likely possibility. This is the only way to explain why I have never heard of this 1,000-year-old family. Chen Zhao thought about it and said, I'll go find a professional and ask about it. Chen Zhao walked a few steps and turned back. If something like this happens again, I hope you can inform me immediately. West nodded. This time, he didn't argue. It was because of his blind confidence and arrogance. It had almost led to a disaster. Of course, this battle had made him realize. Right now, the top combatants of the supernatural organization were still not the best. At the very least, they were helpless against enemies like Amada, who had exquisite equipment all over her body. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.